Start early. Won't wait till they get back. And then we'll start.
And then we can get rolling.
Heard of any?
Okay.
I get water frequently for no event.
That's real contentious.
It was just like that when I was a kid too. Yeah, I don't know.
It's been nice a couple times. I'm like,
Yeah.
we don't need to work.
Look at us. We're fine.
Yeah, we in the fourth ward. It's been never been a. There.
The recorder is on.
Okay.
It just needed a moment. All right.
On the old system, we just had people to sit there and hum for 5 minutes.
Right.
That was some point.
Yeah. But
Our basement floods if it gets,
that's
got a
what
bad
next
guy.
weekend's for.
Last if it gets a whole.
Let's keep going.
All right, I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting for July 14th, 2026. First item on our agenda this evening is roll call.
Raza? Absent. Lancy?
Here.
Beck? Here. Malay?
Here.
Malone?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Solfa?
Here.
Barron? Here. Lehman? Here. Lohman? Absent. Pieper?
Here.
Fehrenbach?
Here.
Anderson? Absent. White?
Here.
3 absent, Your Honor.
Next is a reminder to please speak into the microphone if you come up to address us tonight for the VATV recording. Then we have approval of minutes, which we do not have any. Items removed, added, or changed. Do we have anything?
No.
Okay. Matters from the public for items not on our agenda. Is anybody here for anything not on the agenda? Okay. I tried.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, there was a public notice in the paper about a public hearing supposed to be tonight at 7 o'clock. And I don't know, it was in the paper. It says July 14th at 7 o'clock in the City Council chambers, North Island Avenue in Batavia. And it
Have
was
any subject?
Pardon?
Is there any subject?
Yes, I'm trying to, my glasses, I need bigger glasses for the fine print. It's about a parcel that, let's see up here.
Yeah,
It's about annexing land purchased or pursuant to 65 ILCS 571-13 of the Illinois compiled statutes. There's a list of properties in there, and there's a huge description from
Yeah,
there.
that's on our agenda tonight under 7.2.
Oh, it is on your agenda?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then another thing is, I'm complaining always about TIFs, and I'm still complaining about TIFs. And I've been doing a lot more research on the TIFs, and I did leave when we came to the Joint Review Board meeting here last week. I left a letter that I'd written to the council back in 2016 explaining how the TIF funds were distributed, and it was actually from an actual tax bill. There was one little thing that I had forgotten. I didn't move a decimal point, so the actual amount was for the money that the increment was getting that time was $772,000. So that was an error there. And Peggy Colby brought that to our attention, and I told her, well, I had forgotten about it, and I just had come across the letter, and I thought, the council members would probably appreciate seeing how the TIFs actually work. The other thing is we have so many TIFs, and I have, in all my research, I have 2 TIF 3s, 2 TIF 4s. They're under different names. They had different start dates, and the numbers don't match. So I will probably need to talk to Anthony about that. But I also wanted to show the people that we have way too many TIFs, and it takes up way too much property. I tried to get a big map of Batavia to put the TIFs in, but we don't have a map that has all the parcel numbers. But, so I tried to show how these TIFs are contiguous. You know, here's TIF 1, here's TIF 3, and then it continues on down here. It's off of this page. Here's TIF 6, part of it. Here's another part of TIF 6, TIF 6. And then here's TIF 4 that, you know, it doesn't even come up on that part of the map. So it's got to be its whole map. But if you can put those out, there's a huge section of Batavia that's all in TIFs. And then when we were finishing up some of the stuff, the city administrator, Laura, had said, well, you know, the TIFs are really good. We have this big eyesore piece of property down here, you know, and all of this stuff. And I want to know, if these properties aren't up to code, is it our responsibility as taxpayers to help these people bring this property up to code? If they start a business in Batavia, shouldn't they be responsible for making their own business work? Why should we be giving them all of our tax dollars, or a good portion of our tax dollars, so they can build their business and they can get that money for 23 to 35 to now going up to 40 years, and now they're reclassifying or renaming TIFs so that they're not going to get such a bad, they think they're not going to get such a bad rap. They're calling them redevelopment areas. But the fact is, when you have all these incentives, you're taking all our tax dollars away, and 23 years is just too long. Also, you're taking away our right to vote on things. Maybe we don't want all this crap that you want to put in Batavia, you know, and maybe some of the people do, but maybe we should have a right to vote on it. That's all.
Anybody else for anything not on the agenda?
I apologize for being new. I didn't get your name for the record.
Sorry, Yvonne Dinwiddie.
Yvonne Dinwiddie, thank you very much. Everybody else knows.
Yeah.
I'm just new, sorry.
Okay, up next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Baron?
Thank you. The consent agenda reads as follows. Approvals, Resolution 2026-79-R, authorizing payment for Microsoft Enterprise Services. Resolution 2026-78-R, accepting additional grants of easement for Woodland Hills Electric undergrounding. I move we accept the consent agenda as read.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to regular agenda, item 7.1, which is Resolution 2026-75R, authorizing execution of contract with RKG Associates for 2026 Economic Development Strategic Plan. Welcome.
All right, good evening, council, mayor, and members of the city council. This resolution is authorizing professional services contract with RKG Associates to prepare the city's 2026 Economic Development Strategic Plan. The city received over 18 proposals from 18 firms that were very competitive requests for proposals for the process. Following the evaluation of the proposals and interviews with the top-ranked firms, staff selected RKG Associates as the most qualified firm. The contract amount is within the approved fiscal year 2026 budget. With me this evening, I do have Kyle from RKG Associates. He's prepared a presentation, a brief presentation for City Council, the public, and will be able to answer any questions that you all may have pertaining to the presentation. But with this particular resolution, we are moving for staff to recommend approval of Resolution 2026-07R. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the presentation for Kyle. Max, can you confirm that everybody can see the presentation?
Awesome. Thank you.
Good evening, I guess, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. As Anthony said, my name is Kyle Talenti. I'm the president of RKG Associates. We're very excited with the opportunity to work with you all. Anthony asked me to come up with a very brief presentation. I will do my best. It's against my nature, but I will try my hardest this evening. RKG, we're a 45-year-old company. We are a real estate, economic development, and planning advisory firm. We're headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia, which is where I live. I've been with RKG since 1998. I started there when I was only 4 years old, as you can tell. I've been there ever since. It's the only job I've ever had. I'm now the president of the company. The reason why I am here tonight, other than my two partners, Eric Halverson and Eric Wojcicki, is I lead most of our economic development strategic planning processes. So I'm going to be the principal in charge for this project. You see me here today. You will see me at the kickoff, and you'll see me at the final presentation. We are a principal-led firm for all of our work, which is very, very important to us. Just some of the examples of work that I've done, and I'm happy to answer more about myself or the company if you want to. We have 10 professionals on staff. Summer and August are going to be working with me primarily on this project, and so I have brought them. If you look at the proposal we submitted, they have their resumes in there and my information. So very quickly about the approach, I'm not going to get into too much detail here. What we call a value approach to our economic development strategic planning, and there's 3 prongs to that. One is defining the value. What is the value that we are trying to create here in the community? Is it tax base? Is it job creation? Is it tourism and visitorship? Is it business retention, expansion? And so we'll work with you to identify and prioritize those values that you have for your community. Through that process, we're going to look at how do we then create that value. We're going to look at it from a market perspective. We're going to look at it from a physical location and asset perspective. And we're going to help you identify, and you can see some of the layers that we kind of take a look at. We go from not just looking at it from a broad 30,000-foot market level, but we really get into the different economic activity centers of your community and identify different strategies that may be able to meet different goals, different values in unique ways. Excuse me. I swear I turned it off. I appreciate the test of my concentration. You have succeeded. Yes. So here in Batavia, you have a number of different economic activity centers, and they all need to be respected through the strategic plan. And we need to identify ways to make them all being successful in the manner in which they benefit our community across those different goals. And the third prong is around how do we achieve value, right? What are the action steps that we're going to take? And RKG, while this is a strategic plan, we always go further. Most communities talk about wanting a strategic plan, but really what they want is a business plan. They want to know, what are our goals? What are we trying to achieve? What are the objectives within those goals? But then they want the specific action items. And that's kind of where I believe RKG shines, is we don't just say, hey, we're going to create the best business retention program in the state of Illinois. We're going to say, here are the 27 steps that you need to take to have the best retention program in Illinois. Here are the partners that you need to have at the table. Here's the responsibilities that everybody has to take. Here's what it's going to cost. And we work with you to kind of create that menu of action items to help you as a community and as the leaders of the community make the determinations of what do we want to do first, second, and third. I will tell you the one thing I already know that's going to be the fact is what we want and what we have and are ready to pay for are usually very different avenues. And so prioritizing and identifying what we want to do first, second, and third is going to be a very critical component. And that leads me into my conversation about engagement. Is I'm hoping through this process, not only are we going to engage with a working group that's going to be created that has a lot of different voices from your community, but I hope to work with you all as well and bring you along on this journey, and you can kind of hear the information firsthand as it becomes available, and you can ask questions so that when we get to the end game of this, you don't have to sit there and go, well, hold on a second, Kyle, you're kind of making me drink from a fire hose. So hopefully we can have that engagement through this process, through our milestone meetings. But we're also going to engage out with your business community. We want to make sure that we get out there and we're hearing all the different voices that there are. I know downtown is a very important thing for this community, and we support that. But there are other business interests, there are other opportunities, and there are other strategies that we need to hear from and make sure that we're trying to put ourselves in a position to be as successful as we can across all those different paradigms. The project timeline from the time that we get going, hopefully later this evening, is about a 7-month process. I'm not going to bore you with going through all this, but I will point to the task of, in terms of engagement, we have 5 milestone meetings that we plan to have with the community here and hopefully with you all. And that's where we bring back milestone research, present it to you, talk about what it means, hear from you all, and then we continue through the process till we get to implementation and recommendations. So hopefully that was brief enough. Anthony will let me know later on through email, I'm sure. But I want to reiterate how thankful we are to have the opportunity to work with you all, how excited we are about this. Economic development strategic planning is one of my personal passions, and hopefully that comes through in this conversation. It comes through this process, but I'm happy to answer if you have any initial questions for me about the company or our process or myself.
Questions? Kevin?
Yeah, that was great. That was fast, though, and it really piqued my interest there. Sort of 4 outputs. You told us a great narrative about how we can get a strategic plan out of this, as well as something closer to a business plan with action items. Can you give me sort of a for example of what some of those action items might look like? You know, knowing they wouldn't be necessarily for us, but what level of granularity are those action items? Kind of what might they look like? What have they looked like for other communities?
Sure. So we'll talk about business retention. We're going to look at your current capacity to do business retention. We're going to look at what partners you have that are helping you out in business retention. We're going to look at the resources that we have available to do business retention. And then we're going to create very specific strategies. You should assign this organization is in charge of the outreach. And so you should have a target of 15 outreach to different businesses per month. And you need to create or acquire or set up a CRM so you can track the information and be able to track it longitudinally. So as you engage with businesses, you can see how, as market conditions change, how business needs change, and to the point that you can start becoming predictive rather than reactive. We're going to be looking at, so what is, and I know Anthony and I have talked about this, what is the chamber's role in all of that? What is Main Street's role in all of that? What is the county's role in all of that? Do we have any other partners? How do we engage your business community? Can we create ambassadors that can help execute upon that? What are the specific markets that we want to prioritize our initial retention efforts? So that once again, we're going to have capacity limitations. And then as we see success or we determine we have success, what are the next areas? So what do we do first? What do we do second? What do we do third? So those will be just under that umbrella, kind of the specific action items that we will help you identify. If you don't have the right marketing materials or you don't have the right communication materials to engage with those businesses, what do those look like? What should they be? How do we create the environment to communicate with our businesses to get them to come to us rather than just having them wait for us to go to them? We oftentimes will talk about communities about how do they create an annual business survey, and we'll provide you with an example of a business survey that you as a community can either say, I love it, or say, these 5 things are great and these 2 things are terrible, so we're going to do something different. But it gives you something to jump off from that perspective. So that's one example.
Hey, excuse me, a couple quick questions. First off, we have a very robust Main Street here. They do a lot for us on the economic development front. I'm assuming they're included as part of the study.
Yes.
And the other part of this is, in getting back to the ESIF comment, not ESIF, that's my term, sorry. So when it comes to how we fund economic development, the TIF districts have a checkered record, if we're honest about it, regarding driving development. Is how we fund the economic development here, I'm assuming that's part of your study as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So everything from organization and coordination to what I like to call the toolbox that we use to execute on economic development, that's all fair game for us to analyze and then make recommendations, either to leave it as is or to modify or to rethink maybe into a different approach. So yes, as far as I'm concerned, Anthony has not said anything different, but everything's on the table, and that's kind of my job.
I have a few questions for staff in a minute, but
specifically for you, Kyle, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight. What's some other communities that your company has worked with, like specifically with economic development?
So currently I'm working with the city of Rockville, Maryland, which is in Montgomery County, just north of Washington, D.C. I've worked with Lake County, Illinois here. I did their SEDS about 8-9 years ago. I recently completed one in a community called Cibolo, Texas, about the same size as you guys, just outside of San Antonio. I've worked with a number of cities on the edge of the city of Atlanta, so Chamblee, Alpharetta, Sandy Springs. I've worked with rural counties, Darlington County, South Carolina, Plymouth, Massachusetts. I will say my service area is usually the Mississippi and east, but we have worked, Texas, Illinois, have worked West Coast, but that has been more specialized projects around military base reuse strategies that I've done in the past. But those are just some examples. I'm happy to give you more, but I would say in the past 5 years, I've probably done 18 economic development strategic plans throughout the country, ranging from a community of about 2,800 people to, right now I'm working with a city outside of Dallas, Texas called Salina. There are about 60,000 people, projected to be 300,000 in the next 15 years. That's a very different exercise. Economic development for a community that's about to grow 5x in the next 15, 20 years. But yeah, so that's just some of the communities that I've worked in.
I like the fact that I hear it's not just the plan, but it's action items and, looking at whatever's out there to try to determine what would best fit where we think we're going, to try to tailor something that actually makes sense and that has some, actual deliverables and, a metric to measure that. Because I think that is the thing that I found most important being on city council is that not just to plan for something, but to actually have a plan, have action, have a way to measure that, and then determine, okay, is that the road we want to keep going down, or do we want to change and do something differently? So I think it's really important, and especially, I think of pre-COVID and now, and all the things that changed during that, and all the businesses that changed during that, and all the extra, I would say, opportunities that are out there that, we have to change the way we look at stuff, and we have to change the way we do business. So I think it is really important to do this at this time too.
I appreciate that, and I would only thing I would add to that is my job is not to tell you you can't have things. My job is to hear what you want and explain to you what it's going to take to get it, and then help you all figure out if that's the direction you want to go, and if not, what are the alternatives that get us pretty close to that. That is a common tool, and hopefully the reason why I get to engage with all of you through this process so that you can hear the information and ask questions. Because it's not about telling you, oh, you can't have this, you can't have that. It's like, well, okay, we want this, then this is what it's going to take to make that happen. Or do you want to make that investment, whether it's a financial investment or a land use investment or a staffing investment, and then help you make informed choices. That's really what my job here is to help to provide you with hearing what you want and help you come up with a strategy of how to get there. And in situations where maybe we're not quite ready for that, what are some of the other things we can do in the meantime?
Thank you.
Okay, a few more questions. I think it's part of the City of Batavia's strategic plan to have our departments do these.
Specifically, the economic development strategic plan is in. It does not, the strategic plan doesn't mention other departments, but I can tell you that it is one of the things that Andrea has mentioned that she wants to accomplish is to have a strategic plan for public works as well. And we'd like to get there. We've got the fire department strategic plan, so we'll continue to add other departments in there.
And just curious, because is the fire department the only other one we've done? Currently, but they did it internally?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just curious, between departments, how we determine which ones do it internally and which ones we contract out.
So with the fire department, this was their very first one too. I think that there are a number of external factors that are relevant to the economic development strategic plan that aren't necessarily the same for the fire department. Internally, they had a very good grasp on exactly the things that they wanted to pursue within that plan. I think here we're looking for that third-party outlook and with the experience of having done 18 plans over the course of 5 years, to see the path on how other people have been able to accomplish economic development.
If I may also, and we kind of started this under a prior person in Anthony's position, and unfortunately, we didn't get very far for various reasons. And we, after doing some soul searching on that, we felt that having some outside perspective would be really beneficial for us because, internally, we all have an idea of where things go and everything else, but it's also good to get the outside perspective in some of these things. That's why we hire consultants for like our downtown plan and other things like that to say, hey, this is what we like to do, but, here's what you can do. And maybe things that we just can't think about and outside the box. So we thought that this is the best way to go for this type of an analysis.
And the other thing about it is that I feel that people will be more candid with a third party when they're talking to us about economic development, whereas, they don't want to, they might spare our feelings and not speak as candidly with us doing it internally.
Yeah, and I second that with Laura and what her statement was with that, because one of the things that our city council has indicated to us is that they are very serious about economic development and community development. And so we have to take it a step further and say, you know what? How do we get everybody in our community involved, all of our partners, our stakeholders? Because this is an accountability factor for all of us, not just on a city. We just so happen to be the ones to say, hey, we're going to go and consult out for economic development strategic plan, see if we can create some visions for our town, as many of you already have. We have visions, we have dreams, we have aspirations. Not just that, but we've come a long way as far as a trajectory with development. And this is a perfect opportunity to continue that trajectory, but actually have real alignment, real partnership in the community, but most importantly, make sure we know exactly where we need to go as a town, as a city, looking to grow exponentially, but not just that, but also to grow and bring more people outside of Batavia. We have a lot to offer, but we also want to make sure we're reaching every single person in some capacity. So we're excited to be able to bring a consultant like RKG Associates to help us all be visionaries, but also bring things to a reality, know how to get there, what intricate ways we can get there, and what partnerships we need to develop. There might be new partnerships out there that we may not know about. So this is a great opportunity for a unique council as this, plus the staff that we have on board to really make something happen. So that's why we are very excited to not only have this consultant, RKG Associates, but also to have an active living strategic plan for economic development.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of excited about this. I think this is something that'll benefit us. One thing that perked my ear was the idea of identifying outside groups, stakeholder groups that we could have. And in that, I'm really hoping one thing we can take away from all this is capacity building as well, right? I believe that we aren't utilizing our stakeholder capacities enough. I don't believe that our town is building the little stakeholder meetings that we could be. I'm really hoping that we can begin to identify some of those natural coalitions. I think there's some parts of town that, I'm just shocked that they aren't meeting, the businesses aren't meeting regularly. So I'm really hoping to see some of that, and in particular, that capacity building that's going to allow us, the city leaders and the city staff, to have the ability to do that and feel empowered through this message. So this is both my way of saying that I support this and I'm excited by this, as well as signaling a little bit that I hope I get that out of this. I hope I get some built capacity on the staff side, as well as some built capacity on, city leaders, right, whether they be elected or non-elected, to have those stakeholder meetings to keep that economic development going. And I think I heard that in your presentation, and I hope you're hearing it from me now as well.
Quick question. Just looking at the amount that they're charging, $50,000, which unfortunately is not a lot nowadays. Is that enough to do everything are they going to be here long enough to do everything that we're asking for them?
That would be correct. So we made sure we budgeted the certain amount for the plan, and this one came right at. Many of our other proposals came above, some were very, very low, but this came right there. So everything that Kyle presented in his presentation will be covered under that umbrella there.
Are we going to get them for 6 weeks, 3 months?
I'm sorry, what was that?
7 months.
It was 7 months for the
It's
duration.
part of the presentation, the timeline.
7 months start to finish.
7 months, yeah.
Okay, then how many hours are we getting out of you?
I don't remember off the top.
Okay.
It's based on my billing rate, my staff's billing rate, to number, I don't know what that number is.
The reason why I'm asking, having done this work myself, not specifically in this field, but these types of engagements, generally speaking, either you're going to do it to cost, right? So no matter how much time they put in, it's just 50 grand, right? Or it's you go up to 50 grand and then we get change ordered, right? So is it fixed cost at 50 grand?
Fixed costs.
I apologize for coming back up. I want to respond to that. Never in the 45 years of the company or in the 28, 29 years I've been with RKG have we ever changed order a client without them asking for more work than what we agreed to do. So I just want to make sure that's very clear. We are going to accomplish what's in the scope of service for 50 grand. Whether it takes me 5,000 hours or 50 hours, you're going to get what you paid for that I promised that I'm going to do. And it's on me to make sure I can get it done within that budget, not on you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council.
And next, point 2, which is ordinance 2026.
Motion.
Oh,
We need a motion.
I'm sorry. Would anyone care to make a motion on resolution 2675R? So moved. Second. And Lancy. And second by Sofa. Yep, go ahead, Abby.
I just noticed that sometimes when we have these types of proposals, the scope of services, the proposal is attached. In this case, it was left off. Is there any rhyme or reason to that? Or is the scope of services maybe something we could review? It would answer some of Jim's questions too.
Yeah, that would be fine. We can, Anthony can provide the proposal that was provided to us so that you may review that before you vote on it at City Council.
Great.
I guess just the last question, I would, if it's able to be shared, I'd love to get a copy of the presentation that we had today. Kyle, if you're able to share that.
Yeah, I can provide
Thank
that.
you so much. Yeah, look at it a little more closely.
Thank you.
And just a reminder that we have a presentation library that's part of our website too, and we will post that. So if any members of the community wanted to review that at a future date, they have it available to them as well.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call.
Raza is absent. Lancy?
Aye.
Beck?
Aye.
Millay?
Hey, aye.
Malone?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Solfa? Aye. Barron?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Lohman?
Aye.
Pieper?
Aye.
Fehrenbach?
Aye.
Anderson is absent. White?
Aye.
12 yes, no, 2 absent.
7.2, which is ordinance 2026-28, annexing properties on Deer Path Road.
Thank you. This is a continuation of our efforts to annex the islands of areas that are completely surrounded by the city limits. This happens to be one of the last areas. I think we have 3 areas left to go for consideration. And so this one, we had sent letters to the property owners asking for voluntary annexation. We actually received petitions out of the 5 property owners, 4 of which are homeowners, 1 of which is NICOR. We received petitions from 3 of the property owners, and we also had an annexation that was approved by the city council previously. So we have a majority of the property owners in this area have agreed to annex. This property would be zoned R0 upon annexation and in the 7th ward. We have, as a normal course of business, agreed to pay for all the costs of the annexation, including the recording costs, the plat costs, and everything else. And then essentially we grandfather existing conditions that are on these properties as long as they're legal under county. We allow that to continue, and that includes utility services. If they do not have anything that is close to an existing utility, they can repair their particular utility, whether it be electric, sewer, or water. So that's a regular thing that we've done, as well as if there's other things like animals and things like that. If they're legal under the county, we grandfather them under city regulations.
Have any questions? No? Sure. Oh, come up and use the microphone if you just give us your name for the record.
Don Cruz. If we've had animals on the property, we still get to have animals on the property?
If you have animals currently, then they're legal. If you don't have animals and you're under 2 acres, then you would not be able to have animals. I mean, other than domestic animals like dogs and cats and things like that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Kelly Cruz, I'm part of that same parcel. We got a letter, but we didn't get details of what was included in it. So it makes it really hard to decide yes or no, which is part of why we haven't signed anything over. We didn't know what else. We were giving up a lot, we thought. So, I mean, benefits of being part of controlled on where we get our electricity and our water and that kind of stuff, that was not something that we really wanted. That's the reason we were in unincorporated. Didn't have that. So that's part of why. So if there is more documentation to show us what is included, that would be preferred if we could get a hold of that. Thank you.
yeah, normally we do send a benefits of annexation as part of our initial letters. So if we did not get that to you, I apologize. We can make sure that you get a copy of that.
We got your letter 2 weeks ago.
Well, there were 2 different letters. There was a letter that was sent in January, I believe, and that was our initial letter. And that's usually when we send the benefits of annexation. The more recent letter was one letting you know that we're moving ahead with the annexation. So that we did not include that as part of that. But if you should have received that benefits of annexation in January, if not, I can certainly get that to you.
Nothing on the property would change as far as water, sewer, or electric service. If you have ComEd now, you can stay with ComEd.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
you'd stay with what you're at right now, and basically, the difference is, if I remember it correctly, is you'll lose the fire protection district on your tax bill, and you'll pick up the city of Batavia, and it will change about 3 to 4%.
It's actually a little bit more now with
Okay.
our 2 tax increases, so
Okay.
it's closer to 7% now is what we're
Okay.
finding, so.
Now, you're annexing this in and changing.
Yeah, the only taxes that change is you lose the fire district and you gain the city district. So the city is a taxing district. So that's the only change that's going to happen, and that's about a 7% differential that we're finding right now.
Property taxes don't change or anything.
Yeah, I mean, the assessment itself will not change because the township assessor does that. So we don't do anything with the
Assessment won't
assessments
change,
themselves
the school
as to how much
district won't
your home is actually worth and all that. That's all township.
So the percentage, is that an increase of what we're currently?
That's correct.
So.
That's correct. Yes.
Plus 4, plus.
Plus 7% approximately, yeah.
We searched for it and couldn't, we have the notes from all of the meetings, and we weren't able to find anything with your name or with that property address.
How about the address of Tanglewood subdivision? Because that's the meeting that we had discussed.
We reviewed city minutes, meetings, agendas, etc. We did see a public comment made, but it did not address anything to what you were saying about commitments to annexation.
Back then, you used to record everything.
The dates I found, it was from a plan commission, which would have not been recorded. It was not at a city council meeting, it was a plan commission meeting is what I was able to find. And those are not recorded. We do have the official minutes, which does indicate you made a public comment about it. But it doesn't say to any effect of whether the city made any commitments or otherwise.
City council meeting, because they were filming it, they said we did.
We can certainly talk and try to nail it down a little more specifically, but without, a time frame or otherwise, it's gonna,
Whatever you zoned all that property in from township to city council. I have no idea. Been here 35 years, so. Now, how long?
I'm just on their behalf, other than their tax rate changing a little bit, we don't see any other changes happening for them.
The only other thing is the city address. They will change their address to a city-style address because that's required under our 911 and making it everything consistent within the city limits. So there will be a new address number that is assigned to them that will be effective after the annexation. So, but there shouldn't be any other. I mean, if we go back and talk to all the people we've annexed over the years, I would tell you most of the people, I've had very few complaints about, us being too tough on anybody or changing anything from what's existing. So it's that we try to, grandfather these situations and let them be as they were before we annexed it as much as possible.
So their current way of life would just stay pretty much the same. And I'm still on ComEd. I live in Batavia proper, and my house is still on ComEd, for better or for worse. But I understand your concern. I mean, you've lived in that house a long time, so it's a big change. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you the truth.
And one of the other things that we found also is that one of the biggest savings that people are seeing is the garbage rates, because if you contract with a garbage company, if you're unincorporated, it's often much more expensive than the city's contract rate citywide. So we've found that based on discussions with other property owners that usually the decrease in the garbage costs actually offsets most, if not all, the property tax changes.
So just for my own curiosity here, to the west of the parcels we are looking to annex today, it looks like there's also sort of a weird squiggle parcel. Is that already part of the city? There doesn't appear to be any house on it. It's kind of on the other side of what I believe is a bike path there.
It's probably the NICOR right away.
So, yeah,
I think it's on the other side of the NICOR right away.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And this is, north is to the left here.
I'm on page 10 of the packet. Up a little. Yeah, that 800, what is that, 800 or 890 to the west?
So this area here is already in the city limits.
Okay.
That's part of Tanglewood's common area.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Try to make a motion on ordinance 2026-28.
So moved.
Second.
Beck. Okay. Roll call, please.
I'll get it right this time. Malone.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Solfa.
Aye.
Barron.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Lohman.
Aye.
Pieper.
Aye.
Fehrenbach.
Aye.
Anderson absent. White.
Aye.
Baraza absent. Lancy.
Aye.
Beck.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
12 yes, no, 2 absent.
Next would be item 7.3, which is resolution 2026-43R, authorizing creation of downtown enhancement grant program.
All right. Good evening, council, once again. This resolution establishes the Downtown Enhancement Grant Program, also known as DEG, and repeals the existing Gateway Improvement Grant Program. The proposed program addresses a gap in our current incentive programs by providing assistance to eligible commercial and light industrial properties located outside of cities' TIF districts. These properties often have limited access to funding for exterior improvements. The program provides matching grants for eligible projects such as facade, landscape, and hardscape improvements. Property owners must provide at least a 50% private investment, and grants are reimbursed only after approved work has been completed and verified. This program encourages private investment, improves the appearance of commercial corridors surrounding downtown, and provides a clear and consistent process for administrating grant funds. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 26-043-R, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have along with Laura and Scott.
Do you have any questions? Thank you, Max.
How is this grant program being funded?
This would be through the general fund.
And is there a limit on how much is available a year?
About 75,000 is annually, up to 25,000 per project.
And is there any like clawback provisions that are going to be provided for this? Or are we looking at this as more of a investment to our downtown properties that kind of stays with the building if somebody were to default on the mortgage or close down?
Yeah, so with this particular program, it is intended to do pretty much what the TIF did, but just take things a little bit further without all of the extra restrictions that TIF had. It is going to help with the exterior improvements and things like that, particularly things that will stay with the property. You still have to have all the compliance. You have to be, in compliance with the codes, and you also have to make sure you're up to par with everything that you need to have taken care of with the city. So be in good standing, things like that. So very similar to the TIF. It's just, very similar to the TIF, but still works like the Gateway Improvement Grant. So really not many changes. I do believe we changed the timeline. I'm just going to look at this real quick just to get the number for you. So individual properties may only receive funding once every 15 years. So that's one of the eligibility limitations for that. So, and then improvements must be.
The property owner or the property?
So applicants, individual properties may only receive funding once every 15 years.
Okay.
And then in terms of maintenance requirements, just to point that out as well, improvements must be maintained for at least 3 years. No alterations during that period without actual city approval. Restrictive covenant may be required, so it really depends on that project, but those are some of the things I would look into, like if someone was interested in, pursuing this particular grant. Mm-hmm.
Quick question for you. So when I look at this map, I mean, I'm sure others have kind of picked up on this. It looks a little bit disjointed as far as which properties were selected if on the west side of the river. So my question is, if this gets published, is anyone going to come back at us and say, why is my property not on this? Right? And what's the justification for the properties that are not continuous in the zone? The nice part about the facade grant, if I recall correctly, it really was a block. Right? If you were in this contained area, you were eligible. When I look at this, I wonder why these properties were selected that are not continuous with the other ones.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Alderman Fehrenbach, and I'll open it up to Laura too and Scott as well. But one of the things that we want to do is make sure we don't include residential properties in the downtown enhancement grant. So that's probably one reason why you don't have that kind of TIF box-ish type of thing. The other thing is we wanted to capture actual businesses that operate from brick and mortar. that's pretty much why that map looks the way it looks, but that's what we captured, no residential. And I'm sure we would probably still get people to call and say, I'm in the downtown enhancement grant boundary map, so we wouldn't include residential. That's the one thing about that particular grant.
Can I follow up on that? What about if there's like a zoning change and somebody moves more toward retail use in their spot, could they request to be added to this district?
Yeah, can I jump in? Sorry, I had to be out for a second. As for the boundary, the one thing in the map is it's not clear is the existing TIF boundaries. We thought it was a little too cluttered when we had the TIF boundaries on there. So when you look at these pieces being separated and everything else, it's because there's an intervening TIF district in between there. So certainly when, if we look at, say, changing some of the zoning on some properties and they say we go from residential commercial, there would be a justification to add that then to the district. Same thing as if, we've talked about, creating another TIF district potentially. If that happens and some areas are removed from another TIF district, the commercial properties that are in that TIF district could then join this boundary as well. So that is our intention, that we're trying to not have commercial properties downtown not be covered under some kind of a grant program.
I'm going next because he already called on me. So if I understand you correctly, then businesses that are still in a TIF
Are not eligible for this program.
are not eligible.
Right, because we already have our existing programs under the TIF grants, right?
So then they would apply for, I'm trying to.
A TIF grant.
A TIF grant, right.
TIF
Yeah.
grant, okay.
So everybody downtown essentially is covered by a program.
Okay.
Just some would be by the TIF grants and some would be by the downtown enhancement grant.
Then the application process is the same?
Same. Mhm.
And then all-
Similar, I mean, it's not, obviously,
Okay.
the name has changed, but.
Okay, that answers one question. And then the signage grant is a completely different thing. Do we still have
The
that?
signage
So
would be
that-
included as part
Yeah.
of the downtown enhancement grant.
That's actually included in this new program. And I'll go ahead and list off a few things that's actually included on here for you. Eligible activities would include exterior building improvements, street facing only, including signage, front/street yard landscaping or hardscape improvements, driveways and interior walkways, freestanding monument signage. So those are what are considered eligible improvements, which also would include the sign grant as well.
And then both for the TIF and for this grant program, it's the property owner who would apply, not the business owner.
It would be, I mean, the tenant can be the applicant, but we have to have approval from the property owner for making the application, because there are going to be times when the property owner is going to say, wait, I want to use that money, not you as the tenant. So as long as we get concurrence from the property owner, that they would be eligible.
The tenant turns over in the same brick and mortar space, then for 15 years, they would not be able to access this money.
If we've granted that to a property, then yes, that is the limitation.
And again, that is up to $25,000 for each project. So each property, that would be $25,000 max for that particular grant, but $75,000 on an annual basis.
Yeah, and also if we have granted let's say we gave a $10,000 grant to a property, they would still be eligible for an additional $15,000 up to the $25,000 max. And that's, of course, subject to, city council budgeting enough money. We budgeted $75,000 this year. If the city council says we want to make much more, it's a very successful program, we want to make it more, we can go to, 100, $150,000, whatever the city council finds is appropriate.
Yeah, because I recognize a lot of businesses don't stay around longer than 5 years. And so then, depending on how you read this, you could go through 3 different tenants in a brick and mortar without being able to access funds. So
Well, in theory, that you wouldn't make substantive changes to a structure, every time, because I don't think, the city wants to be investing in face changes every few years. I mean, it's meant to be a, improvement to the building, so it improves the facade, improves the appearance. It's not for every tenant, we're going to go ahead and change what it looks like every time. So that's the point of it.
I think too, that's a really great point too. One of the things that we do look at is, you bring up a great point. You have a business that may stay there for 5 years, but the hope is if they did make the investment through the downtown enhancement grant, that the next tenant that comes in will have little to no work to do because the property is now updated and up to speed for that new operation that will exist there. So it's kind of helping to fill a gap. So again, since this is not in a TIF, it still gives those businesses that are kind of outside that TIF buffer to be able to still do what they need to do to the properties. And so again, if we needed to put a new tenant in there, the property is up to speed for the next person.
Can I just throw out kind of a scenario, kind of going along the lines of Alderperson Lehman's thought process? Let's say we have a property in downtown Batavia that has a really, really ugly front that really needs to be opened up. But the property owner isn't going to do that. But he's able to get somebody that comes in, and based on the work that they have to do, they have to invest a lot of money on the inside interior, which this grant will help them to get up and started. And let's say they haven't been successful and they have to leave after 5 years. The front still hasn't been addressed. And let's say they get a new tenant that's like, I need that front to be addressed. I feel like 15 years on a property is going to really, you know, they're able to do the work with what's on the inside, but the outside hasn't enhanced our downtown, and it really needs to be enhancing our downtown. So that's where I go along the lines of Alderperson Lehman with the 15 years, because there are some properties that really need some work, but we also need to support new business owners coming in to be able to develop some of the inside to help them get started.
So let me clarify that. The grant program is meant to be an exterior grant. It is not meant to be an interior grant.
Okay.
Because the idea is to make the exterior look good so the property values increase and, you know, makes the downtown look good. It is not proposed to be an interior grant program.
Okay, and maybe it's
So-
in there and I'm just
Yeah.
half asleep in ice cubes. Alderperson White, ice cubes.
Yeah, so that's the intention of it, right?
Thank
We want to make everything look good on the outside for sure.
But Alderperson Barron, I think one of the things that we do look at is, we don't intend for people to have to use the whole 25,000. I mean, if they do, it's there. But if they don't, that means they've saved some money and there's still some money available for anything future. So we're not saying that they're going to use the full 25,000, but it is available up to that amount if they do need it. So it's really, like Scott mentioned, it's really kind of a supplemental opportunity to kind of help with the private investment they're already going to make with the property. So I do know where you both are coming from with that, and I appreciate it.
And if after implementation of this, we want to report back to you on, what types of projects we're seeing, et cetera, we can make changes to the plan too, if it's not fulfilling the goals that we put it in place to achieve.
I think that's something that's important, that we go back and look at that too. And, okay, if we put 75 grand out there on the street and we only have people take advantage of 20 grand a year, we have to do something different to get people to invest more into those buildings. And I do have issues on, one address that maybe gets $100,000 over 10 years put into it because there's been 3 or 4 different businesses through it. Unless it's really truly structural things that are being done, or, a fire suppression system upgrade or something like that, that's really a big deal. It's hard to go in and say, okay, every time, somebody turns business over every 5 years, well, if we put $25,000 into it every 5 years and the business still doesn't survive in there, has that money really done a good thing for our downtown, or done, something good for the business community? Abby or Tony?
Yeah. Oh, okay, thanks. To me, this makes sense. I recall when we put the Gateway grant program in place, we were targeting, coming into town on 25, on 31, both ways on 25. And it was about improving the look as you come into our town. There was initial grants that happened then. I think there were some successful ones that did make improvements. in my recollection, I don't recall too many recent gateway grants. That's kind of gone away. The idea that, blanketing the whole downtown area, so there is some kind of grant available to all the whole downtown and not just the parts of downtown that are in TIF district. So I think this makes sense, and I fully support it, and I applaud you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Alderperson Mole.
So I want to clarify to a couple points that have been made. The entire downtown is covered by a grant, not the same grants.
Right.
And the intention behind, as you just mentioned, originally when we did TIF grants was fire suppression was a big focus, right? We want to make sure these old buildings have the proper safety requirements. But now we are saying we're not going to cover interiors anymore with this grant, and these properties in this blue box are not eligible for any interior grants elsewhere. If you could explain the thought process behind it, and then if anyone else is in support, I would kind of like to see interiors. I would like to see the projects eligible be consistent across the downtown, because to Jen's point, there's interior deficiencies in that blue box. And it does seem, at first it was like, no, everybody's covered, it's fine. No, there are gaps, and there are things not being covered.
Yeah, and I think part of the philosophy of some of this is that we're changing how we're funding these types of things. I mean, all the TIF grants are funded by the TIF fund itself. And that has, a certain amount of money that is generated year after year after year. This program now takes general funds and has to budget for that, to pay, taxpayer money to go to private entities to, improve their buildings, which makes sense for certain things to try and make sure that, we're creating a environment that has attractive buildings and attractive downtown and everything else, but we also don't think that it's appropriate to pay for everything that people want to do. There has to be some significant level of private investment. This is kind of meant to be more seed money rather than a substantial investment in the properties. Otherwise, the city might as well own the property. So that's kind of what our thought process is. It's meant to provide some level of funding with a match that, doesn't, pay for everything.
Two things to add to that. We gave a grant from the general fund to 15 East Wilson Street. And so there still are opportunities if it's the type of business that we would like to see come to our downtown. These grants that are addressing facade and exterior things it doesn't matter, if you're a business owner, you're eligible to receive this. So we still will be able to provide grants for interior build out if that's something that City Council wishes to put an incentive out there for. The other reason is that Main Street and their design committee have really been focused on wanting to partner with the city in improving the exterior look of the buildings of the downtown. And so that's another reason why we focused on the exterior for these properties.
And Laura, if I may jump on that too, one of the other things to think about is the one that we did recently. If it is a project that is, a very large project and has, a really significant impact on the downtown, we can go into a separate redevelopment agreement that's outside of our normal programs and say, okay, this property owner is going to spend $10 million and we're going to be asked for, say, $1 million or something like that. And we feel that that's worth investing in as a grant or some type of a loan or what have you. We can certainly negotiate that because we've done that in along Randall Road with Walmart and some other properties where we had sales tax incentives and those types of things. So that's not outside of the possibilities that could happen, certainly.
Alice, you first.
I had a question to clarify. These grants are first come, first serve, right?
That's correct.
So my question is more about how they'll be promoted. I noticed that, you talk about the city's website, and since it's first come, first serve, I'm wondering if it would be a disadvantage to those businesses who find out about this opportunity later. So I'm just curious, how it will be promoted. Will it be promoted quarterly? Will you be targeting these businesses by mail, social? Exhausting all of our,
That's a great question, and I think that we could probably even work with our communications manager to push that out to our weekly updates and also any of our social media platforms. In addition, we've spoken with Main Street, and they're going to put our application process and information on their website to kind of cross the information around to the community and also word of mouth. So from the city perspective, we're going to do everything we can do to make sure that everybody's fully aware of the grant and then work with some of our partners to be able to also push the information out there as well. But it will be updated on our website, and that's going to, just for everybody listening, that's going to replace the Gateway Improvement Grant on a website, and then you'll see the Downtown Enhancement Grant on there on our incentive webpage on the city.
Also, we're planning to create a brochure and have Main Street. They did that with their current program. They just walked door to door and shared the information with all of the different businesses in downtown. And so they're a great partner for that. And so that will also hand deliver, because sometimes the business owners, they're not looking for this stuff, right? Until it's put like right in front of their face, because they're just trying to, sell more stuff.
Happy to hear that, just with, some of the businesses that have come to us and told us that they didn't know about things. So especially since we have a targeted area, it should be a little easier to do that. I just wanted to also add a suggestion for your marketing materials that you highlight past projects that have used, the similar type grants, what they look like before, what they look like after, and those pictures will really attract people to these grants.
Great idea.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And then we'll also be relying on you all as the city council to pass the word along in the community and to your Patreons as well. So we look forward to your assistance with pushing the information too.
Dustin?
I was going to follow up on Abby's comment about having the fire suppression system grant.
Yes.
I would like to suggest that has a public safety aspect to it, which is why a grant program, if it has since lapsed, might be worthwhile to pursue again. Obviously, I don't think we should be paying for interior renovations from a aesthetic perspective, but something like a fire safety system, like I said, not only does have a public safety element to it, but also is often a major stumbling block to redevelopment of these properties, since any sort of improvement to an interior triggers the need to install fire suppression systems, for which a property owner may just not make improvements and allow a property to languish. So this is somewhat unrelated, but it might be worth pursuing, if not this grant, a similar grant program for fire suppression systems in older properties, because I think that can be a stumbling block in continued development of our downtown.
It's an excellent point. It's just a very high cost item. So it's similar to elevators. There's other projects that don't move forward because it's the new use would require an elevator and they can't afford the cost of that. Fire suppression system, for instance, I think for Comedy Vault was about $150,000.
Yeah. We used a loan system for that, or a city loan, like a no interest loan?
So the building owner was the one that installed the fire suppression system, and I'm not sure that we offered any grant for that. The $150,000 that we did was for the business owners build out.
Okay, but that was a loan though, not a grant.
It was a loan. That is correct.
That wasn't for I was under the impression that was for the fire suppression system.
And we actually did, it was a combination.
Okay.
So I think it was $125,000 loan and a $25,000 grant, and the business owner came back to us and asked if we would give $25,000 more in grant and excuse that from the loan.
Yeah, okay. I think that's correct, yeah. One of the things we could look at is, the properties that are covered, how many of them actually still need sprinklers systems, because I just, off the top of my head, I don't know. But certainly we can look at that and see if that's something that we can, accommodate either through this program or a revision to it or something like that. But I think we'd want to look at that and see how many properties it really affects and, and see what we can do.
That would be useful as well. All right.
All right, so we have 12 people watching right now. We've been talking about it for 25 minutes, right? I guarantee you at least one person watching is going, how does this help with the vacancies downtown? Right? So that's the question. What's the answer?
It makes the building more attractive.
Offsets development costs.
Can they use it for anything other than anything to help prepare it for sale, even if there's minor interior improvements? I mean, just imagine you're watching this right now. Exterior, I think we
Yeah,
established.
it gets people to walk through the front door because they find it too, and they don't just drive by it or walk by it because it looks run down.
It's adding to the aesthetic appeal to the downtown properties, and it's a welcoming experience. So the goal is to use that grant, the Downtown Enhancement Grant, to make the downtown look amazing, feel welcoming, and most importantly, encourage other businesses and people to walk into those doors to support our downtown businesses.
Are we going to go ahead and just put in the mail to the owners of the vacant properties downtown to make them aware of this program?
When we did the original program with the Gateway, we actually did send a mailer to each and every property owner that was in there. So that's how we got, I think, 2 responses from that. So we can certainly do that again.
With the Gateway Improvement Grant, we really did not get a lot of applicants for those. I mean, I remember the last one I believe we did was for Mill Creek Early Childhood Development. That was the last one that we had did for that particular grant. But outside of that, it was probably a good handful of Gateway Improvement Grants that went out. So hopefully we can use this opportunity to spread the word about the DEG, Downtown Enhancement Grant, and encourage as many people as possible to take advantage of it.
Yeah, that partly answers a little bit of my question, but I was kind of wondering if this is something that our KG is going to do with their strategic action plan, is like, how can we promote these grants, like from your department, like how do, as we're trying to actively enhance our downtown, this is a huge way to do that. And I'm sure that Main Street and Chamber are going to be more than willing to share the information, but I just want to make sure they're not our key. They're not the voice of this. This is coming from the city, and I don't think we should use them that way. Yeah.
Many channels.
This is definitely through the city, definitely, but we're just going to use our partners to really push it out even further. So that's the goal, but it's definitely a city-run program.
And one of the
Absolutely. And I just want to make sure that, our properties are hearing it from your voice.
For sure.
Mostly, and not theirs. So I
Definitely.
think that's important.
Yeah, and also one of the things that we're going to be doing is developing, we had done this years ago, but also having signage that is put in the windows of the buildings that receive grants to say this project is partially funded by city funding for whichever program it is, the TIF program or the Downtown Enhancement Grant. So we want people to know that they are getting money from the city to help improve it, and that also would create interest by others saying, oh, gosh, I could get, maybe some money for doing my improvement, so.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, motion to approve Resolution 2026-43R, authorizing creation of Downtown Enhancement Grant Program.
So moved.
Second.
Malay and Malone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that was easy.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Up next is ordinance 2026-30, approval of certificate of appropriateness for building demolition at 330 to 338 Webster Street.
Okay, so the Public Works Division, Scott Haynes has applied for a COA for the demolition of the city-owned property at 3030 through 3038 Webster Street. The Historic Preservation Commission did conduct the required 2 meetings regarding the demolition process and recommended approval of the certificate of appropriateness to the City Council. In their review, they did conduct a site tour where the commissioners went through both sections of the building to visually see everything on the property and concluded that the reuse of the building is in line with the narrative provided by Scott Haynes and Andrea Pedraza, as well as the photos provided by them. The property, as the council is aware, does have an underground storage tank that does require remediation from the state fire marshal. Part of that remediation requires the removal and demolition of a significant portion of the 3030 Webster Street building, making it cost prohibitive to retain 3038, which is closer to Prairie Street. The photos in the packet do show some of the existing condition. There are several other things that have upcoming expenses if the city were to keep the building, such as roof, HVAC expenses, significant electrical I guess, deficient electrical. One of the city employees who is an electrician did repair any life safety issues for the temporary use by the toy drive in 3038, but outside of that, there is a significant amount of investment required in the properties from discussion with Scott Haynes and Andrea Pedraza. So the city staff is requesting that this be approved for demolition. According to Public Works, they intend to issue the RFP for the demolition contract in the next couple of weeks, with the toy drive working with one of our community partners and landlords to relocate in the next month or two, is my understanding as well. So there is a path for both of those items. So the toy drive, last recollection, was to relocate to another location downtown with the help of one of our landlords. And then, Laura.
Just wanted to add to that with regard to the timing of this, why we need to do this now, both because we committed to the state fire marshal the removal of that underground storage tank, but also because toward the end of this year, beginning of next year, we're going to be working on truncating TIF number 3 and setting up TIF number 7 for the redevelopment site along South Batavia Avenue. And therefore, if we wanted to use the funding available in TIF 3, we would have to do that before we truncate that TIF.
Yes, thank you for adding that. And then just to emphasize to the council, the downtown plan does call out this property as like a catalyst site within the downtown plan. There is a rendering shown utilizing, single-family attached townhomes, whichever terminology you want to use to define them, as a potential redevelopment of the site. If the demolition is approved, city staff and the demolition occurs, city staff then intends to market the site with a real estate broker for redevelopment of the property. Staff would be open to a project similar to this scope or whatever else is in alignment with the downtown plan and downtown mixed-use zoning district. If there's any questions, I'm available, as well as Andrea and Scott.
Questions? I'd be happy to see something else there.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice spot to have something that would actually bring a little bit more density to that side. We're going to get a little bit along 31 or along 25 South River Street section, but this is, to me, a little bit more tied in to the business corridor there and provide people.
Tony has a
I was going to move that we send a council positive recommendation, ordinance 2026-030, approval of certificate of appropriateness for the building demolition at 330-338 Webster Street.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Up next is 7.5, which is Resolution 2026-77R, authorizing change order number 7 with IHC for Phase 2A of the wastewater treatment plant. And Andrea's coming up with a couple changes to what was in the memo. But they're good changes.
Yeah, good changes. Yeah, this is just, so this has to do with the ongoing wastewater treatment plant situation that we have, that we've been having our people work on, and it's been going along really smoothly with very limited change orders. This has to do with a couple of change orders, still very small, and I think that we're still within 1% of what we were originally budgeted out at, contracted out at, and so I think we're doing real good, and you can explain what we're doing here, but it's just a couple of small additional change orders to try to get this thing finished up.
Yeah, so in the packet, it explains all those change orders. Zach put together the memo that explains all of that. So there's some stuff with the materials and then some site stuff. Earlier this afternoon, I did find out that the change order, there were some, were double checking the math, and we have an additional savings of $1,185.81. So it'll go from $29,322 and change to $28,131.01. I will modify the resolution and update the memo with that revision, and then we'll put it on for the city council meeting next week. I'm being told that this should be our last change order, and then we just have the last pay authorization. Otherwise, as we've mentioned, it has been completed as of June 22nd. Tomorrow, I'm going to fill in all the stuff that we've been filling out at the census, stating the project is completed. So we are good to go. We're moving forward with some of the in-between changes before we move to the next change, or the next phase, I should say.
If you have any questions, comments, anything? If not, I'd move to approve resolution number 2026-077-R, authorizing change order number 7 with IHC for Phase 2A wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
I believe we have a public comment.
What?
I'm sorry, I believe we have a public comment.
Okay.
I apologize.
Can you go to the microwave,
Took us some popcorn.
Wasn't slow today. It's fine. Myself included.
Look up change order 7. It comes up change order 6.
Oh, and the attachment.
Okay, I will modify that. I have to make some revisions, so I'll make that as well.
We were looking for change order 7, and it's only coming up change order 6, and all the documents there are change order 6.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that is definitely a difference because it's much smaller.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.6, approval of pay grade change for Assistant City Administrator.
Yes, so this is a proposal to expand the management responsibilities for the Assistant City Administrator, Max Weiss. Concurrent with that, Wendy in Human Resources reviewed the new job description and is recommending a higher pay grade. This is being prompted due to the retirement of the IT director, offering the city administrator next step in his career toward taking management responsibility for one of our back office functions, our support functions, and the plan is to look at the other back office functions at some point in the future, but just to start in this initial proposal with him having responsibility for our IT division.
Yeah, I just want to publicly say thank you to Max. I think this is well-deserved. Always been impressed with the work that you've done, and you're easy to get along with, and I can see why this would be recommended. I also hope someday we can entice you to live in Batavia, and hopefully this is a step towards that. So I just want to, like, on record where the camera can hear me, say once again, thank you, and now you're on the hook to move to Batavia.
Yeah.
And for those who are going to wonder.
Hold on a second. Tony's next.
I would just, I agree with Kevin with that. Typically, I would look at a 27% increase and say, holy cow, but this is a change in the scope. We know what we're getting. I've liked what we've seen, Max's work to this point, so I'm in support also.
For those wondering, the salary that we're adjusting him to, it does align with other nearby communities. It's actually less than Warrenville, comparable to Geneva when we look at what they're paying their assistant administrator, who's also has a project management role. And for those villages and cities where the salary is lower, they don't necessarily have department head duties like Max will be having going forward.
Yeah, I'll just second a lot of Kevin's comments, and I've told Max privately, but again, always been impressed, and I think we're going to see some great collaboration with Max's youth and our, just what's going on in the world of IT and technology and AI and all that good stuff. And and as far as the pay goes, I'm sure a lot of us here at this council know it's hard to find good people. Max, thanks for hanging with us, and we hope to keep you. So, and yeah, you're moving here eventually.
I also want to echo that. I think Max is one of our strongest assets, honestly, in our entire like organization. So making sure we keep him around, I think, is the utmost importance.
I think part of the decision-making here too was from the get-go, seeing Max handle a number of projects that span the entire organization, right? The strategic plan being one, we've been going through an exercise to really bolster our emergency operations, and Max has taken the lead with that. He's worked with a number of departments on a citywide record retention destruction project that has freed up an enormous amount of space in many departments. And so that really factored into the decision as well.
Just want to echo everyone, and I'd like to motion to approve the pay grade change for Assistant City Administrator.
Second.
By Lohman, second by Lehman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries.
Effective for Friday's paycheck.
That there is that natural progression for Max so that we don't lose him. And the fact that I don't think there's been anything that I've heard of that he's said no to. You know, that, hey, you want to figure this out? I'll figure out how to do it. You know, we want to attack this in this department or that department, we'll figure out how to do it. So he gets things done. I'm very happy that he's here. Okay, we'll move on to 7.7, which is 2026-714, Second Streetscape discussion. Package of discussion on the Wilson Streetscape update. This is our downtown section of Wilson Street, correct?
It is. I'm going to put the exhibit up here that is in the memo, except I clicked the wrong one. It's been a day. Max, where?
Up at the top.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. That. Okay, so if you remember, we were back here in April and we had Upland Design with us to come and talk about potentially some updates to Wilson Street. We do have to work on the tree grates out there, and other communities are doing some stuff, and just thought after 20 years of having the same stuff, if we have to go in there, wanted to present some options. And after that presentation, there was some direction as to getting more trees, less lights, no benches, costs associated with all of these items. So we had Upland go through and update each of the different options. So this was the first one that they presented to us with these light fixtures, the 5 cylindrical stand-ups. And then at the meeting, Michelle Kelly did mention that they could have covers over them to dim the light. So these were some of the designs that they have. She provided those in this exhibit. And the previous exhibit there were 2 here and additional 2 that removed some trees. This keeps all the trees the same and then adds some light fixtures. And then we move on to the next concept, which was that specialized, customized tree-looking light fixture where the light fixture is aimed down and again can be customized as to the brightness and such. There were on both sides of the bridge before. This again keeps all the same number of trees that are existing out there and just adds 2 over here. Moving on to the third is the planters, which we did talk about, and they were kind of scattered throughout. Here they just showed them at the 4 corners of the bridge. Obviously, we'd have to be cognizant of walk paths and where the doors are for the parked vehicles there. All 3 of these include Silva cells that would incorporate additional underground storage space for the root system to thrive and grow, kind of what, well, I guess it is what is out on North River Street. And that has proven to work fairly well. And then I'm trying, concept D is, we wanted more trees. So this was looking to see where we could potentially put more trees. So these blue dots are 3 locations. And again, those would be in Silva cells. So I did include the costs in the memo, and they did have a la carte items, kind of if we decided we want to pick and choose. We can do nothing, we can do all of it. We're going to start working on designs later on this summer, once we have a direction, a clear direction of which way we should head, with making sure that if we want to do any lighting features, that we have the electric there, or if we want planters with potential for lights, that we also have that there. If we choose to do none of the lighting, we still like direction if you want to do the Silva cells, as there is obviously an implied cost. And that was $31,378 based off their a la carte menu. So the prices range from doing nothing and just replacing as is to 0, or doing just the Silva cells, which would be $387,000 to incorporate all that, coming out of, some of it would be electric, some of it would be street, some of it would be engineering with our street concrete and that type of funding. So I will leave it open for any questions that you may have. And I'd be happy to go over any of these options as well.
Yes, since you left off on funding, I have a question about that. I see here in your memo that you say most of the work would start this year and then most likely continue with more funds for 2027. So I'm just wondering, how much is the budget for 2026?
I would have to look, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but at this stage in the game, it would be looking at design stuff. And if we're lucky, we might, I know we talked about breaking it up, so we might be able to do 2 to 4 of the Silva cells. And it just depends on the workload right now. But definitely we'd be doing the design work with the electric and where that needs to go, and if we need to reroute it. And Steve has the most money budgeted in there, and unfortunately, I don't have those numbers with me, but I can get them to you.
Okay, yeah, that would help me, and I think council just kind of understand what we're working with. Personally, for me, I'm happy that you heard us with option D and added more trees. Walking downtown, which I do regularly, we need more shade. It's very hot, and love that you added that. And I love that the price tag is not as high as others. So just knowing what that budget is would help me, align with that as well. Because with our tax increase and all of that, and I hear from the community, what are we spending our money on? I want to be, very conscious of the amount of money that we're spending. I don't necessarily want to add more for 2027. So would like that number when you get a chance. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, and you know what? I read the wrong line item. If we just do the existing trees and only replace them with Silva cells, it's actually $265. The $387 was if we included the 3 additional trees. And again, that was just with the Silva cells.
Can you repeat that again?
It's option E in my memo is just replacing the planter boxes with Silva cells for $265,305 versus option D that adds the 3 additional trees that they show in this exhibit here.
Right. I would be in favor of option D based on the budget.
I just wanted to give you kudos. We had like a 25 or 30-minute discussion when this first came up, and you were able to come back with really concise feedback that obviously listened to us and even gave us an a la carte menu. So kudos to that. And likewise, I would be in favor of option D, depending on the budgeting that's involved.
It's important when we talk about we're going to do grant money so that businesses and property owners can, make the downtown look better. When we have the opportunity to do that, I think we need to do what we can do, to really stand behind that and to show that we're also invested in that. I mean, that's the thing that, I constantly hear about the planters. How do we get those planters to live? How do they look so good? You know, the things that we do downtown, people notice. I mean, every day somebody notices that stuff downtown because we do spend money on it, because we do spend time on it and try to do the things that people enjoy down there so that they enjoy being down there. Leah?
Yeah, I have a few quick questions. So when I'm looking at the different concepts, for example, the only difference between A and D, so D has the 3 additional trees, and then A has the 2 lighting features?
It does.
Okay, and then, but the price difference, so basically those 2 lighting features is like an additional $232,000, which, just for 2 lights, am I understanding that correctly?
So the lights are approximately $12,000 each individual column. So each set is about $120,000.
That's a lot. I am a huge favor of trees over lights in this area. I mean, we already have gorgeous sculptures on the bridge. There's 4 sculptures there. I don't see a need to add more art or any decorative features on that strip on Wilson. Yeah. My other concern with putting in the flower boxes is that we actually still need to have a future discussion about our other planters around town. We haven't even really solidified how we are planting all of our other planters in town, so I don't think we need to add any more at this point. So I'm in favor of D. I love the idea of adding more trees. And, my other question was the Silva cells. What is the expected lifespan of a tree with the Silva cell?
I'll have to look into that, but I know we have the ones on River Street that were put in about 2010, so they're sitting in there 15 years. We did have to replace just a couple of them, but you can look and see those trees are thriving compared to some of the ones that are on Wilson Street, and those have already been replaced once, and the bridge was done in 2008, so those are, and you can tell they're not growing, and they're a lot smaller than the ones on River Street. So I can double check with Michelle, but it's definitely a lot longer because it does give the depth, and there's different calculations to see how big they need to be for the types of trees, and what we end up picking, we'll have to work with them on the sizing.
Okay, and that's was another question. Are we looking for planting like diverse trees in this area? Do we have an idea yet on that?
I think we would have to work with them to see what would work best. The one thing I noticed, I was looking through some other things, and it was one of our consultants that we have worked with in the past on projects. They send updates and newsletters, and they just recently did the streetscape in downtown Glen Ellen, and they were talking about trees and the Silva cells and stuff like that. And I don't live that far from there, and I go through there all the time, and I would definitely say that they have a lot more sidewalk and real estate in front of their storefronts than we do. So one of the concerns of mine is all the trees on the south side that are smacked right up against those buildings may not grow as well just from the light, with being on the south side and not having that full exposure only like during the summer. And they're, where downtown Glen Ellen and some other streetscapes have the real estate there that do provide more room for these trees to grow. And then, we're also blocking some facades if the trees are in the way too. So we'll have to look and see what will complement the area.
I think that was it. Thank you. And I'm in favor of D also.
Kevin?
Yeah, thank you. Again, also thank you for coming back with a lot of great options. I guess my question would be also in favor of D. I kind of like that idea. The lights in general, I don't know, they just don't feel right. They feel like they'd be out of place. So that's why I think I like D. For these Silva cell systems, I think maybe we talked about this last time, but remind me, will there be the ability to have electricity to the area for like Christmas lights or cafe lights or whatever may go on the trees? Because I know
will
right now we
work-
have electricity in some of the boxes, and that's a problem. Does the Silva Cell system make that a little easier, and is that part of this?
They currently on River Street, they have the pop-up boxes that are out there. So this we'll be able to work with the proper installation and protection of the electric system in a water area. Because we just want to make sure that we're not having any type of conductivity or anything like that. So I know the goal is to have handholds outside of that area, but then we can also look at having them right at the base of the tree.
Yeah, and what that tells me is that if we decide, man, some light would have been great, these trees are blocking our streetlights or whatever the case is, like, we can always put up Christmas lights, cafe lights. Thank you.
So after the last discussion we had, I made it a point to make sure I looked down Wilson Street at night, and there is a considerable amount of light down there, and I just feel like the lighting would get, it wouldn't be seen the way that we would want it to see. But kind of what I hear you say a little bit is maybe with the additional trees, there's not a guarantee that they may grow. They may struggle a little bit.
Well, there's some on the north side, there's one on the south side. I just think, and I could see, I think sometimes on the difference, the south side, they're hugged up against the building. And I used to have a house that faced the north in the winter, and it always would freeze. So, it's because they were not getting light in what it needs to grow. So that's just my only concern there. But
And what type, from a maturity standpoint from trees, I know that trees go through different levels. Is that something that you're going to have to work with? Because I do worry that if we put in some younger trees, it is going to block the fronts of our businesses. So when people are driving down, instead of seeing our businesses, they're going to maybe see some trees if they're the newer trees and not so mature. I do echo having a canopy along the sidewalk would be nice, but I don't even know if our current trees provide that. So I'm okay with just going with trees, but I'm not sure if adding trees is going to solve what we're really trying to go for. And if it's going to compete with our previous discussion of doing a facade grant. So
yeah, we will look at that, and I'm sure Scott Haynes will be involved, as well as Dave Hartnett, and then somebody on the streets that is an arborist as well, trying to pick a variety of plants and what we have, try and keep it consistent. And the one thing is that when you go with bigger plants, they don't always have that rooting capacity. They prefer to have it more of a smaller tree, so it has more time to grow into that area and has a better chance. But again, we will look into all those things and have to figure that out. So we take all these things into consideration.
I'd also like to speak in favor of option D, with the caveat that I'd be open to the planter boxes on the corners. Could that be added maybe in a future turnaround, since those are relatively easy to just install after the fact? I will say, I would echo other comments that I very much appreciate the form of this memo. I think it's really helped inform us as to the choices we have available. And I do want to say, I think some of those lighting options might be welcome in other parts of the downtown. So, don't throw them out completely. I think, as has been said here, this location might not be the best for them, but I do like the initiative taken in looking for those. And I think it's good to know that those are options for other parts of town as well, potentially.
Yeah, so I think in this, I did leave it in here that Upland did provide future other areas such as North River Street and then down here on Houston Street. And there's lots of to-do lists on my desk, one of which is looking at crosswalks in the downtown and trying to create the neighborhood feel throughout the downtown and stuff like that. So with that, and then we have redevelopment sites, so there's definitely
Good for the pole lighting.
options.
And I'm fine with not using the lights, like Alderman Pieper said, maybe using them somewhere else, because I think they're kind of cool. I mean, they look cool, they're expensive, but I like how with the new options, I think we can just go with option E and just have the same trees, same amount. I mean, if you look at the way the diagram is, they're looking pretty jam-packed there. by adding the two and.
Oh, here, I can go to D,
yeah.
sorry.
It's fine.
Not to make you guys
Look a little
dizzy.
bit, they look a little bit jam-packed right there and then over there. I mean, I think they're nicely spaced as it is. And I think with the Silva cells, we're gonna get a little bit more of a healthy tree and better growth anyway from the ones that are already existing in terms of the way it is. So I mean, I'd be fine if we just did option E, where you just replace everything with Silva cells, have the same amount of trees and save the money for someplace else.
Yeah, on that note, I agree with the Silva cells. Option E is, for me, absolutely fine. And I'll tell you why. I was here for the initial design session, 2000, I think it's 2010 or 11 with Altano, yeah, who oddly somebody I went to high school with is actually presenting because he worked at that firm. And it was a great session, great workshops. They had all these expansive visions for downtown Batavia, and it was so cool to see them implemented. And I feel like we're not done, right? So we did North River Street, we did Wilson, we did Houston. And this is a question for you. Are there plans to move to a different street to continue the project? Or is our scope of work done for the streetscape project and now we're just updating as required?
This was just to update and see if there was if anybody was interested in doing anything as we prepare, because we do have to replace it, whether you say yes or no. The trees have to come out and the electric has to be fixed. So I just wanted to bring it forward to your attention and let you guys, make you aware and take this opportunity to plan for the future. If you think any of these things are worthwhile, maybe not today, but in the future, we would accommodate that in our design. If not, that's completely fine too. Just have options out there. Tim's working on Route 31 through the downtown. We're waiting for IDOT's response on that. So there may be, depending if we get those improvements, we also have the redevelopment site. So I think there's a lot of different pieces that we can look at. We're going to be talking about First and Water in a little bit. So that would be something that you guys would have to present to us if there is something that's high priority, but right now there's nothing besides looking at or waiting for the road diet stuff.
And we do continue to utilize the design guidelines that are part of the Altamano streetscape plan. In fact, we did that when I think we chose the type of railing for the bike ramp.
That's good to remember too, that, we can continue this block by block as things change downtown. And if these cells work really good and they really promote good tree, and we have space further west on Wilson Street where we might want bigger trees, we can do that. Because if these work, then it's worth the investment to be able to have a tree, a better tree, a bigger tree in those same areas. Anybody else? Dustin?
Could the Silva cells be added to existing trees? I guess a root ball is already largely formed, but would it be likely to spread out into the uncompacted area, or would it require full replacement of a tree to install these cells?
They have to come out because there's electric in there.
I meant in other places in town, not for these.
I'm pretty sure they would have to come out because it is just a characteristic, and these might go a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. And when Michelle provided us all the different options, there are different depths and widths. And again, it would be a design feature we'd have to look at depending on the tree and the age of it and the condition and all that stuff to see what's best.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Is our consensus going to be D or E? Where are we?
I like
D?
Save the money for other stuff.
Should we do a straw poll so you can see what
straw
the
poll?
majority is?
What?
Should we do a straw poll so we see where the majority is?
What's the difference between D and E cost-wise? Because it's just 3 more trees, right? 3
Yeah,
more
so it's
Silva
like
cells.
90,000, I think.
30 grand a tree to go with the Silva.
Silva cell. Parkway tree for $150, I think, right now, half price.
Usually Parkway trees don't move long in concrete.
It's more than just a tree.
Yeah.
Well, and
we
we're
can
looking for that information on what budgets it's coming from and what.
Yeah, we can.
It's being split.
we can go with option D as we start planning, because our budgets are due very soon. And so I can plan for the worst case scenario, and then if we opt not to do it, then we can take those 3 out. Or you guys can when you review it.
You're having fun now as a department head, right?
Well, this year I have like no exceptions, I've been told, or deadlines.
If I read correctly, if I read the budget, streets has $250,000 budgeted, but I don't know if he's using that for other stuff in his budget.
They have a whole
It was just a
slew of
bucket, yeah.
different things, and I think Steve had some stuff in there, but I did not get to look into that. I will look into that and let you know. Yeah, and then Tim's, you won't be able to find that because we just
It's buried in
manipulate
something
them. Well, we
else.
manipulate the numbers and do projects we can fit based on
Tim,
prices.
where's this hidden?
Some
What's
of-
the key word?
Sidewalks. So, I will get you guys some of that information. And yeah, the sidewalk stuff is more kind of based on other projects and what we have and what we can find, and to move at least this year, and then we'll have more numbers for next year. So I will move forward with those options.
And I don't want to put too much work on other people, and I think Anthony may be left, but it'd also be kind of nice if somebody just like knocked on the doors of the businesses and said, hey, do you want a new tree in front of your place too? I mean, I'd like that kind of input as well, because I'm torn between D and E. It'd be nice to save $100,000, but if the businesses are like, this tree's really going to help me.
I think there's a business right here.
Yeah, I didn't want to be like.
Do you want a new tree in front of your place?
I think,
But the other businesses do,
because
yeah.
they may be like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want
Yeah.
my business blocked with a
If
tree.
they all say no, we don't,
They're
or
only
if they're
going to be
like,
there for 5 years anyway, so.
get a facade grant, just cut something out.
Move on to 7.8, which is a discussion on the SSA implementation for McKee Road tributary.
Tim is coming up, and I'm gonna put the
Puts a
exhibit
lake out
up
there,
here.
so I.
God, that looks so different.
Right.
It's almost 9 o'clock, and I know you guys all want to talk about stormwater. Yeah. All right, so the exhibit that Andrea just pulled up is the area, let's see, you have Randall kind of on the east side, and then this is Fabian, and actually, no, this is Hawks. So just to familiarize yourself, this area that you can kind of see where this is the McKee tributary, this whole area, most people maybe don't know that this is actually a stormwater basin that was built, I think in 2001, to service the developments in the area before a lot of that whole area was developed. So just to kind of go through my memo quickly, the detention facility was built in from 1998 to 2001 to serve all the developments within the area. Over time, additional developments have been allowed to use the remaining detention that's available through buyout agreements. There was a long-term funding mechanism that was established there was never an established funding mechanism for how we're going to pay for maintenance. We paid for the construction, and then developers have paid for the use of the detention volume, but never the ongoing maintenance. So with Winding Creek now using the facility and in another development that's currently being looked at in the area, we're requesting just to look at this area. This is a good time to see, hey, we're spending a lot of money in this area. Can we look at how we're paying for this? And should the city, all of the city, be paying for the maintenance? So we kind of put together some costs going back to 2009 and found that actually going back to 2009 and the contract that we currently have for maintenance, we're going to be spending about $610,000. That's through 2028. On average, our cost this is for native plant maintenance, basically. Okay, so this whole basin is, there's wetland plants, there's upland prairie plants, And these are expensive to maintain. We have lots of city-owned detention facilities that we pay for, and they're expensive. They're very nice, and they're good for stormwater detention facilities, but they're expensive. Under the current contract that we have, the cost is going up to about $75,000 per year for the maintenance of this facility. On average, since 2009, the cost was about $34,000 per year. This facility, again, this serves the developments that are hydraulically connected to the McKee tributary. So what we're saying is, rather than relying on citywide taxpayers to pay for the maintenance, we'd like to suggest an SSA, a special service area, to distribute the maintenance costs to the people that are being served, or the developments that are currently being served. Similar to an HOA, each property would pay its equitable share of maintaining the common infrastructure. So we're not asking to establish the special service area. We're asking just for the discussion to see if this is an appropriate thing for us to do, to look into creating a special service area for the McKee tributary facility.
Yeah, I had some time at work today, and for whatever reason, this is the one that spoke to me. So bear with me, guys. First off, yes, I think it makes a whole lot of sense to have an SSA here. Am I understanding correctly that this was before we did this? Because this is now standard practice to have SSAs for these types of basins now, is that right?
No, the current practice is now, for example, for Winding Creek, which was about to be finished, the detention parcels are put on a separate parcel, and they're paid by that development.
Yeah, and we've been doing like $0 backup SSAs in case the development fails. Okay, understood, yeah. And so part of my little project today when I was bored at work is I did highlight all the parking lots and roads, and then had an AI program crunch it to tell me kind of what that breaks down to. The Walmart parking lot alone is 10% of the entire land area. So my understanding is that we're wanting each development to pay 1/10 of the total cost. Is that what I read in the memo?
I'm going to correct so just delete those 3 lines in there. I kind of put it out. I was getting some stuff out. Scott and Peggy talked to me. We have to use EAVs, so it's assessed values for all the areas. We did not pull out all the parcels. We have to see each parcel and add those up, and then divvy up the cost amongst everybody. And all the landowners out there would then be given their equal or their fair share of.
Kind of where I'm going with this, and I'd be interested in kind of the information behind that and the feasibility, is that impermeable parking lots are obviously have a greater impact on the basin than, say, a permeable lawn. And so you'd think that sort of per square footage, the folks who have big old parking lots should pay a little more per square foot or per acre or whatever the point might be for use of the basin, right? You kind of want to shift the people who are using it should pay a little more, right? Kind of same cost. Is that something that's even feasible? Is that allowed under our authority? Is that sort of in the weeds?
See Scott smiling over there, and I think he's more of the expert on that. I think, let me just say, ideally, what you're saying is what, as an engineer, I would like to see. If we were to go to each development and say, this is the number of acre feet or the volume that is used for this development, and we equitably distribute that proportionally to each one of those developments. However, I don't know that that framework works within how we assess, or how the county assesses taxes.
Right, yeah. So what happens is the county assesses it based on what the levy amount that you have. So normally when we create these backup SSAs, we say, okay, we can levy up to 50 cents or $1 per $100 of equalized assessed valuation. So basically 1/3 of whatever the property value is, and that's the amount. And we levy based on what we actually spend on doing these improvements. So like every year when we do the levies for these special service areas, that's what it's based on. So we take that number and then we back it into, what we should actually levy on that. The problem is that you don't really have an easy way to bifurcate some of these properties into different types of situations unless you are creating completely separate special service areas. And the problem with that is that you can get If 51% of the owners and 51% of the electors, meaning registered voters, object to it, and this happened in Tanglewood, for example, when we decided to, merge all those together, then that special service area fails, and I believe you can't redo it for 2 years. So what would happen is you create certain special service areas that would exist, and they would have one levy, others that might have a different levy, even though they're paying for the same improvement, and then you may have some that don't have an SSA at all. So then where is that money coming from? Is that coming from the city's general fund to pay up for that, make up the losses? And then the people that are in the SSA are going to be saying, hey, wait a minute, how come I'm paying my property taxes plus I'm paying the SSA tax on top of everything else? So it's kind of like an all or nothing thing. You have to either do it all or not do it at all, essentially. There used to be different ways to do that, but the county has gone away from doing that because there's like special assessments and other things like that are much more complicated. And a lot of times we have to actually do those types of levies. So the finance department would actually have to send individual bills to all these property owners. And that's why we're having problems with, property in this area where the Casey's is, where we're going to be implementing that special service area because the individual levy or the individual billing isn't working.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. That helps fill it out. Would I be interested, so just the yes, no question, yes, SSA makes a lot of sense to me. I think that it should occur if that's sort of the discussion here. I'd just be interested in exploring options so that the residents of this district aren't paying more than their fair share for Walmart's big parking lot or Tesla's big parking lot. It may be that the EAV equals out that way anyway, right? Like I would imagine the Walmart properties probably has a pretty high EAV given its, retail and so on. But, if that'd be something I'll be following up on as we further explore this. But yeah, basically my position is, yeah, SSA makes a lot of sense.
There's an equity question.
An equity.
Well, as the person that would be paying this SSA out of anyone sitting here, I have a lot of questions. And similarly, I think the EAV is an interesting way of doing it. I understand it from a tax purpose, why you have to do it that way. But in that particular little parcel of land, you have a very large store, you have small stores, you have small businesses, you have senior living, you have condos, and you have single-family houses, and you have townhouses, mixed townhouses in there. So someone that's living on the third floor of a condo building that has an EAV that's similar to a house, that doesn't really seem very fair from a stormwater potential, but I understand the necessary mechanism. I do have a bunch of other questions, I'm sorry. Is Brayburn the largest city cost for maintenance?
As far as our
because we just went through the new contract.
Yes, it is. By
okay.
quite a bit, actually.
Okay.
And this also includes burns sometimes as well. And I think those are, what is it, $15,000 to $20,000 when we, and there'd probably be one or two.
This is just the biggest
contract.
area. Most of our natural areas are not this big. It's 30 some acres. You have like McKee, the basin that's at McKee and Randall. It's a longer, narrow basin. It's not nearly the cost. This is just, there's a lot of upland, there's a lot of, wet areas. It just takes more to maintain this property.
They were actually just out there yesterday when I drove by.
Okay, good.
Why not the other side of Randall Road as well?
Because we don't maintain that. That's Cane Forest. That's actually, that's Cane Forest. And that's not actually part of the stormwater facility either.
So that's more of a natural, and this was more engineered 25 years ago, roughly?
It is a creek, and it's called the Mill Creek Tributary. So back in 2009, we had to dredge this thing, and that's kind of why the maintenance started back then. We had to get an Army Corps permit and meet the requirements. I was out there multiple times. I still remember bringing Laura out there with Mayor for a burn, and she had a party that evening, and we stood in
It smelled like bacon.
Downstream of the smoke. Whoops. We thought standing at the then time Sam's Club was a good idea. But so it is regional to this area, and the area that we maintain is just to slightly south of the new Branson Bridge. When we burn it, we do burn everything, but in our long-term, like it's been on the long-term planning as long as I've been here, is looking at additional, doing that dredging for the creek that goes all the way to the city limits over there. So, that's also something that some of this, if we're not having to contribute, we can also enhance that area as well. But it reaches Mill Creek on the west side of Wenmouth, kind of by our water treatment plant there. So it's more of an online thing that, again, we have some subdivisions in town that have online storage on Mahoney Creek. It is not allowed or permitted any longer by the DNR, but it is all incorporated into this area as stormwater volume.
The city is doing the maintenance on this particular parcel of property. How are we handling the insurance on that? And I will say that it's a loaded question because we've had HOAs and different other groups approach us and say, we have these conservation properties. We'd like you to take a look at it, Mr. City, Mr. Park District, because we're paying way too much on insurance. It's 99% of what we're doing. We're not maintaining it. We're just paying insurance to maintain that land. How is that compared to our $75,000 a year in maintenance on this largest parcel that we're maintaining?
The insurance, I couldn't really touch on. I know when we get a contract with V3, they provide us with their certificate of insurance. That's part of the contract requirements. But as far
This would be insurance for somebody drives off the bridge, somebody does
I think
something.
that's covered our general liability.
Yeah,
insurance
general
that the city
liability.
has. Yeah. Laura, you probably know better than I do, but I think that's how.
So
that's
like Winding Creek has the retention pond you can see right in the very middle of that yellow square. And as our HOA, we have to have insurance on that property.
Yes, yeah.
And we have to do maintenance on that property. Otherwise, that kicks into a different SSA that's dormant currently. Probably got that close to right. But, and so there's other neighborhoods like that as well. If that makes more sense to handle this in a different manner, like you're looking at proposing, that's something we should consider outside of just Brayburn right there.
I think it's a both and. So the city both has the insurance should something occur on those properties that we own. And then likewise, we're also contracting to do the maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm in favor of this being something that is funded by the people that are using it, despite that negatively affecting me, just personally. So I do appreciate the additional context and the understanding.
Thank you. As Andrea was saying, the dollars that we've spent so far are really just touching the surface with plants. There could be a time when we do have to spend, bigger dollars for a dredging, and if that comes out of our drainage funds, that's going to be a big hit for our drainage capital projects.
This is a shot in the dark. For the SSA, I know that the EAVs for all these properties are actually split between land value and property value. Could we put a rate only on the land value to try to capture roughly land area versus actual property usage?
County wouldn't allow that. They basically take the EAV because they years ago, they used to do some of that stuff, but they have said, we want to make all of our levies simple. You have a tax rate that is established and it's based on just whatever the EAV is. Otherwise, obviously there's a lot of calculations they have to do on each and every property. We're talking hundreds of properties here, so.
But they already do those. Like
They do, but then you'd have to bifurcate each of the properties to have a levy for, one part of the value of the land versus the whole value of the property when you include the structure and everything else. So it creates a lot of work that they would not be interested in doing. So it's bad enough that they have to do with all these different districts and things like that, because like this area is actually split by 2 different school districts and everything else too. So it's a little complicated.
And one thing that we could do too is if we do decide to do an SSA on it, we could go in and do, say, first year do 25 or 50% of what we think we're going to need for that property maintenance, and then ramp it up to what would be a full share for it over a time period, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that, to split it up, to bring that up to cover the actual costs. and not have to do it immediately to 100%, from 0 to 100.
We
Yes.
just wanted to bring this for discussion to see if you guys would be interested. And it does take a little bit of time with all the parcels to get the compilation of the EAV, but we can put that spreadsheet together and share those values with you. So you are, so we're all aware of what that cost may be moving forward. But with the big undertaking, we didn't want to spend a lot of time if you guys were not in favor of it. Most of the areas are, the larger subdivisions. Tanglewood, they have lots of ponds and they have lots of native things because with the stormwater ordinance, they require the retention and the wetland component. And so almost everywhere you go now has to have some sort of native maintenance unless it's a 1980s mowed basin. We have some that we've converted, and those are on our native planting list, and they've increased a little bit over time since it started. When Tim, do you remember when the first overall drainage was? I can't remember. I know I did it, but
The first one, I'm sorry.
the overall citywide.
Oh, 2021, I think?
No, it's been longer
contract?
than that.
The contract or
The
what?
overall, yeah. Anyhow, we've been doing it
Right
for a
after I
while, and we
started.
keep on adding additional parcels.
I think it was like 2017. I feel like it was right when
Yeah.
I started. It was one of the first ordinances I voted on.
Now, just so you know, if this is something that you wish to do, it is a relatively complicated process because of all the properties that are associated with it. We have to, do public notices, send, I believe, certified notices to all the property owners within the area that's being proposed. And there's the opportunity for the property owners to object to it. So if we get a petition that is more than 51% of the owners and the electors, which are the voters, then the SSA is defeated. So and there's certain legal procedures they have to follow with filing with people and things like that. That happened at Tanglewood, but we also did a dual SSA for that one because we already had some of the subdivisions were covered under different SSAs, and the argument we made with them was we will agree to dissolve those if you have a subdivision-wide SSA as opposed to just two subdivisions that were paying for that cost.
Yeah, I'm glad you said something because that's what's been going through my head. I was like, this is going to be hard. This is not going to be
It's going to be
an
difficult,
easy
yeah,
thing to
right.
get
It's not
solved.
simple.
Now, the other-
And it's just something, it just goes to, we don't have a lot of big redevelopment areas left, right? But not having this in place when you are developing and not having the long-term maintenance funded through something like this, either internal to the HOA or, business development association, and we don't require it. So, the cost to maintain is high, the cost to fix it if it fails, and all the ramification, if stormwater fails, we know what flooding does. Like, the cost is going to be a lot higher than our annual maintenance fund. And that could happen to Ashton Ridge. We had nothing in there that said, we have a backup SSA, but like that preemptive, this is going to, you have to maintain this and you have to have long-term maintenance planned because we don't want to have to put in the SSA to fix a problem. Because if we have to fix a problem in, a built-up area like Ashton Ridge, it goes to the whole city. It's a mess. So not that we're going to cross that bridge too much, but we have to be mindful on the smaller developments too, that we need something better in place.
Yeah, we have been very consistent with the new developments about having the backup SSAs in place. So every development we've done since I've been here has had that, and we've tried to establish some of those after the fact in a couple subdivisions just to make sure. It's much easier to do it before the development is going than it is, after all these residents move in and they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to have to pay taxes, even if they're not paying taxes. There's the concern is that the city could implement it, and then now they're going to be paying.
Yeah, but if we're implementing a SSA, if we're activating a dormant SSA that we put in, it's because there's a problem and we have to spend that money to fix it. We don't have the mechanism in place when the HOA is created. You have to do X, Y, and Z so that it doesn't fail, so that we don't have to do the SSA, correct? Like, there's nothing like that in there.
I
Yeah.
believe there's backup SSAs.
There's
No, there
backup-
is. I'm saying, yeah.
Oh,
There's backup SSAs in some of the subdivisions, so Winding Creek has a backup SSA for their improvements, but not necessarily for the Braeburn Marsh area. I believe Walmart has a SSA as well in place, but again, it's for primarily the road and everything else. I don't think it covered the Braeburn Marsh part of it. So it was hit or miss on some of these things when we did this, so, just.
And then, like Prairie Commons on Kirk Road and Wind Energy, we were going back and forth, and even Dave Brown got involved on that it was a beaver dam downstream in unincorporated Aurora that was blocking the basin there to have the natives and all that stuff grow. So we had to coordinate with Aurora unincorporated to get the basin where it needed to be, because we weren't going to accept it on behalf of the HOA because they have to meet design standards. Same thing with Tanglewood 5, sitting through that, making sure that they're meeting their design standards so that those residents are counting on us to look at it and make sure that they're taking it over in good standing, and then it turns over to the HOA. So when it's a newer development, it does lie on the city, and there's monitoring and maintenance requirements. Some of these have DNR permits, Army Corps permits that require that. Some of it is just for us with the wetland plantings.
I think it's important to remember too, this isn't just this year or 3 years or 5 years. This is 20, 30 years from now that this stuff still has to be maintained and it still has to work right, or we end up with neighborhoods that flood, or we end up with problems that we have to fix and pay for. Kevin?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure I'm getting a clear picture in my head for HOA-controlled stormwater infrastructure. There is required maintenance that they must do from a regulatory standpoint. Maintenance, not design maintenance.
Not from the city.
I wouldn't say regulatory, but I would say we require it. So where we see developments that are not maintaining their detention basins, we will have conversations. We've had a few in the past couple of years, actually, one recently and another one last year along Kirk Road, and they're detention basins that have been around for a while, and often with an industrial building or industrial park, where it's like out of sight, out of mind. They don't know that they're there, and then all of a sudden there's trees growing in their outlets and things are flooding, and they're going, oh, what's going on here? And we have to have conversations. But yes, that's something.
And those conversations aren't backed by ordinance or anything. It's just
You know,
kind of like we
county stormwater ordinance.
We have the stormwater ordinance, but sometimes they are by the plan development. If we have a plan development, we have a landscape plan, so that, they have to comply with the landscape plan and sometimes maintenance. But more normally, what it is just landscaping is what we regulate then. So
Okay, a bit far afield, so I'll save some of this for another time and offline, but I have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, and to Bob's point earlier, and we know of one HOA in particular in the city who hasn't done any maintenance on their stormwater detention and has approached us about what can you do to help, because we can't do it and we don't know how to do it. We don't have the expertise on what to do with it. So it could be a problem. And it's not actually, it's a creek instead of like a built basin. So it has other downstream ramifications as well.
Other questions?
So do we want to give staff direction to move forward with that SSA? I don't see anybody saying no. Tread lightly, tread lightly. Add that to the list.
Bob, you have a lot of doors to knock on and coffees to buy.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, one more question. I mean, you're talking hundreds of properties, certified mail. To Alan's point, we're looking at this 10, 15, 20 years down the road, not 1 year worth of costs. So I think that's the key thing to keep in mind, because it'd be very easy, even though $75,000 is not an insignificant amount of money, it'd be very easy to say, oh, it's just not worth it. It's too much hassle. But it's that dredging 10 years down the road, or a larger problem that we need to protect both ourselves as the city and the residents in this area.
Well, and I think to be able to explain that to them and say, this is not just about what does it look like this year or next year, is, okay, in 10 or 15 years, when everything else has grown up and built out completely around it and contributing to the flow through there, that we do keep it open and we do keep it functioning the way it was designed to function, or changing the design of it if it needs to be changed. So that way it does operate and protect the area that drains into it.
We'll fill a couple more of those gaps to help distribute the load further.
Right.
Expect more water.
Well, yeah, and that's not going to go away.
That's a big key to it is,
Yeah, that's not
we
going
are
away.
going to see more water coming.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Planned now.
And maybe have some staff there to help talk about that long-term effect.
Yeah. I think about when I lived out west out there, and when there were beavers and stuff in Mill Creek and they would block it up, and all of a sudden you'd end up with 3 feet of water at the end of my driveway because it wasn't cleared out because it hadn't been touched for 2 or 3 years. 4 or 5 trees fall down in one spot, block a bridge, and it backs up everything. So without maintenance, disasters happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We will move now to 7.9, which is discussion on First and Water Street update. Hey, I see we got bollards out there. When did that happen? They just appeared.
Yep.
Do we find some sitting there? Or? I didn't expect them to be out there. I thought we were told that they weren't going to show up this year. I don't mind it.
The first time we ordered them, there was a really long lead time on them, and these just came in right away.
It came, yes, I think it was within a few weeks, I think. Well, let me back up. So we talked about this last in June when we were talking about awarding our 2026 streets program. And engineering became involved in this because we were planning on resurfacing the block south of First Street. Okay, so Streets Department had asked us, hey, these are difficult to maintain. Is there anything else that we can look at doing for a more permanent fix rather than having just the plastic bollards? So that's when we had said, hey, we can realign the curb. As you can kind of see, it's this little blue-ish line here. That was one of the options that we were looking at. Okay, so back in June, everyone said, why did you take the bollards out? And that's why. We were trying to, a long-term fix that's a little bit more efficient for Streets Department, a little cheaper for everyone.
Not to mention, some of them were broken, so we were moving all of them.
Right. So the existing challenges, backing up with this intersection, we have eastbound traffic comes down the hill through a horizontal curve, and there's limited sight distance there. Okay, the intersection, as you can kind of see here, is also skewed. Lots of little challenges here. So that skew also, as you can see, results in this super long pedestrian crossing. And if you've ever walked this, I walk this all the time to get to downtown. It's almost like climbing up a hill. When it's an older road, it's been resurfaced so many times. There's a crown in the road, and it's for someone that's maybe a little bit challenged, mobility challenged, getting across that length and kind of walking up the little hill to get over the crown of the road it's difficult. So in looking at how to make improvements here, we have challenges. We're trying to balance ped crossing, bicycle crossing, turning of vehicles, primarily going southbound onto Water Street, emergency vehicles, ADA requirements, and one other thing to add, as part of the Bike and Ped 2023 Bike and Ped plan, it was requested to put a bike lane in along the east side of Water Street here. So we're trying to get all of this stuff kind of fit into this little intersection. So the first thing that we had looked at as part of our streets program was to try to, I was just saying, have a permanent curb in there, and then, we're basically we're doing basically what we had before, removing the bollards, adding a curb, and then just kind of extending this crosswalk a little bit. This is great, but it does lead to a longer crosswalk, which we're trying to avoid, right? The way it was with, or the way it is now with the temp bollards is, it's a little bit shorter of a crossing, which is good. So we had looked at another option to, a fairly significant option to, where we would also realign the curb. Okay, so we're gonna have a permanent curb here, no more temp bollards, and then also reroute the sidewalk a little bit further west to make a crossing at a shorter point. We would have a little bit of curb to do here, replacing the ADA here, the ADA ramp, sidewalk, and then also making some improvements on the north leg of the intersection. A little bit nicer, a lot more expensive, shortens the crossing by about 10 feet, reduces turning conflicts, does create some issues with trying to get the ADA crossing to work. These curbs need to be at 2%. In doing that, we're going to create a bump in the road, which no one really wants to see. So some challenges with this option as well. So those are kind of the options that we were looking at. In the meantime, Andrea was working with Streets Department to do some quick fixes out there. I don't know if anyone has driven out there. I think Andrea provided the pictures in the memo, improving the sight lines. The trees all the way along First Street along the south side were trimmed. These trees here were trimmed up quite a bit, and now when you drive through there, it's quite a bit better than what it has been in the past. So that was a good thing. Let's see. So what we're recommending here, some of these improvements, there's a lot going on here. We can make some permanent improvements with the curb and with the relocating of the crosswalk. However, we have talked about the property to the southwest is potentially a property that's going to be developed. So anything that we're doing here, how long is this going to last? How long is this going to last? Is there going to be any changes as a result of the future development there? So in our minds, after looking at this, is this something that we want to take a step back and then kind of redesign this whole thing more of a permanent? There's other improvements that could be made here that would make it a little bit nicer. So that's kind of where we're at. We're just kind of looking to get some feedback to see what council's thoughts are on this.
Who's first? Yeah, what would you think we're going to be doing with Warehouse 55, which is over there on the other corner where you're not doing anything? I mean, that now is one of the largest antique stores in the Chicago, in the Tri-Cities. I shouldn't say Chicago area, but it's big, and they getting out of town customers in there. And so I know they're anxious to find some more places to park their customers. So
there's another reason maybe we want to look at this whole intersection globally and see. I mean, I think Andrea mentioned maybe we don't want to have the crossing here. Maybe we want to cross over to this side and redesign the grading on the southeast corner here where you're talking about. That might be an easier crossing as well if you cross the south leg and then cross on the east leg.
You got that artist studio there now, which has got a lot of activity with it.
Yep.
And I mean,
a lot of people park along.
There's a lot of stuff going
Water
on
Street.
there. It's probably one of the, quite honestly, it's one of the busier areas we got in the downtown.
I agree.
Yeah, to play right off that, right? River Street Studio is sort of a keystone establishment of our town, and so I'm glad we're looking at this. Can you tell me a little more about the ADA accessibility with option 2? You said it might create sort of a little dip or a bump or a...
Yeah,
Can you explain that just a little bit more? That sounds like a feature, not a bug to me.
Good
Right?
point.
Like
Yeah,
if people know there's going to be a little bit of a bump,
Yes.
like unintentional bump there, they're going to be slowing down a little bit.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit more about that. Why would that happen?
Well, you're going to have, this is I think 8 to 10% slope here. So to make these ADA compliant, these ramps here, the curb has to be brought up to 2%.
Sort of like to flatten it out so that if you need assistance,
down.
you're not kind of at an angle. Or,
Yes, and then try to
Okay.
match in. So it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have a bump there, and maybe that's what
Yeah, and that becomes one of those little quirks that people are like, oh, I need to make sure I'm going a little slower because of that
Yes.
bump. And
Yep.
then they also happen to see the person on their bike or
Yes.
the pedestrian. Also, thank you for all the work that has been done there. Again, it was kind of shocking to drive down there to see all that foliage gone, and it like really did
It looks,
open it up. As for waiting, I'm just always hesitant to kind of wait on things for could be, would be, should be's. I would be interested in pursuing something, even if it's not as aggressive as the option 2, just so that we can work a little bit on that retention for Warehouse 55, which I want to have their foot traffic, that we can address a little bit of this. So I personally would be interested in something, even if it's not a big aggressive rebuild.
well, I mean, one of the options is, I mean, the temp bollards are replaced now, so the option would be to leave it exactly as it is, and you're going to maintain this length of crosswalk, which is good. We could perhaps place as part of our streets program, this curb here. However, people might not like this. We are going to be lengthening the crosswalk by about 10, not 10 feet, but 5 to 8 feet. And I know people don't want to see. So,
In talking to some of the folks at the Water Street one, they have a couple questions. Number one, are we going to keep the on-street parking on South Water Street, south of First Street? And I guess we have it on some of the areas there, we have it on both sides of the street, don't we?
wait, start over again. So,
North of First Street, we have it on both sides. South of First Street, it's just on the west side.
right.
And the other question I get is, well, with all this conversation about what's going to happen in that next block, the hill there that's right to the west of it, will some of that be planned for a parking to be shared by everybody that's in that area?
We're hoping it's going to be a public parking deck
Well,
with hundreds of spaces.
Right. I'm just saying those are the kind of the conversations that are out there right now.
If we were to extend the curb to that blue line, can't we leave the bollards in place that extend beyond it?
Yeah, well, I guess you could. I'm thinking about the challenges that we hear from people that are trying to turn. There is so many people that park here that I think the idea was to try to improve the turning radius a little bit. I think that's what we were trying to do. It's an option.
I mean, the bollards are also to slow those people down from whipping around that corner.
Yes.
So they'll get around the corner fine and they'll get to their place to
Yeah.
park. So if we can combine that, I would love to see, that permanent improvement made as well. To Kevin's point about the timing of all of this, I am excited by all of these option 2 proposals. I am very excited to hear you talk about the southwest corner or southeast corner as being a potential, because I've always been told, absolutely not, we can't touch that corner until something drastic happens and redevelops over there. I don't want to wait for redevelopments. I don't want to wait for the southwest corner to redevelop before we do something here either. I think a redevelopment can work into our pedestrian improvements and probably benefit from pedestrian improvements. I don't want to wait for that streetscape to change with a new building there. If you need more time to pursue what this engineering looks like, then I would love to know kind of what that timing and what that budgeting looks like so that we can move that forward. I don't want to study it and then someday and then it just kind of fades away and then we just leave the bollards and never do anything else,
Okay.
And I think that there is an opportunity to come across Water Street from the west to the east and stay out of that intersection, instead of driving people away to walk further away to get back across the street, is to come directly from the parking straight east across there and have a landing. I think that's probably easier to me to be able to put in there and have that available than it is to try to rearrange the crosswalk that to me just gets worse if it goes up that hill.
I mean, I think that all downtown intersections need a crosswalk on all 4 spots. I don't.
Eventually I can
want
see
too
that.
many people.
When you're at the point of redoing that block, definitely, you're going to be able to do that. But today, I don't see that there. And I'll say this, it's definitely much more open now with everything cleared out of there. You can really see everything there and know that there's no parking spaces to the south when you come down the hill. You're going to go somewhere else and park. Alice?
Yeah, so thanks for that comment, Abby. What I was hearing here when you were presenting was that we can have this discussion right now. These are some options that you laid out, but this is the time to explore other things that we're interested in. So my brain heard, okay, this is not just binary, right? We have other options. So I'm glad that you brought this topic up, because that's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, what does the world look like? Where is there a world that we can have for crosswalks? My family likes to go kiss the sky. And, every time we're there, it's like, okay, let's hope we don't, get hit by a car because there's no crosswalk. It's connecting it. So I'm with Abby on, can we do something now? To your point, Alan, when you said you don't see it happening now, I heard them say, we can talk about it. So I would like to talk more about it, and I'd like to do something sooner than later as well.
I just want to, sorry, Leah, to cut in. I remember from the previous conversation that extra curb was something that was covered in the budget that we approved, right, for the streets program before, or covered under the 10%. So cost-wise, at least doing that improvement, knowing, I assume you'd need to do more engineering on the crosswalks, but just in the sense of urgency and we really could make at least a small improvement or inch our way there now.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this to us. Couple questions. How often do the crosswalk markings get repainted?
Once every 5 to 10 years, if I had to guess on average, something like that, yes.
Because they're pretty faded right now, and that's something
Yes.
that I've noticed also, that would be an immediate improvement,
They're faded? These are the ones, okay.
I feel like they're a little
Yes.
faded, yeah.
Okay. They are.
Yeah, which, it's nice that we have the bright yellow, pedestrian crossway, signs, but the markings themselves on the street are pretty faded. They're hard to see. So, if we can, I don't know, get those updated, I think we contract that out. Do we?
Yeah, if we were going to do, if we're deciding to do some improvements this year, we can we can do that. Generally, what we try to do is if we are resurfacing, we try to hit it at that point as part of the resurfacing. And then over time, our streets department will go out and also refresh crosswalks.
Right, and I understand most other places in town, it makes a lot of sense, but this one, since it's such a high-profile intersection that we're trying to find improvements. So another idea I thought I have is what can we do for beautification in this area? It's pretty bare, it's very pavement-driven area. The small little yard signs are great, but they're obviously temporary. It almost looks like a highway in our downtown, this little intersection. So anything we can do just to continue just drawing people's attention to, this isn't a highway, this is part of our downtown area. I was in Carmel, Indiana last weekend, and it is shockingly beautiful what they have done in their downtown for pedestrian, for bicyclists, for traffic calming, all of that. And it was so inspiring, and then also so we have so much work to do. And I know they're a larger community, but their downtown is just gorgeous with what they have done for areas like this. Okay, one other question. The other corner at Main and Water, is that BEI property, or is that our property?
Which corner? Wait.
Right at Main Street and Water Street, where that stop sign is.
The stop sign.
At the end of Main Street?
Northwest corner?
The northwest corner belongs to BEI.
Right. A suggestion would be, maybe we can ask them to help clear out that corner, because when you get to that stop sign also, and you're looking for
There's a sight
traffic.
distance issue, yes.
Yes, there
I
is.
noticed
It's
that,
very
yeah.
hard to see around, so.
Part of that is grading, or the grades too, I think.
There's
But, yeah.
also like, and there, actually, I noticed there's overgrowth into the sidewalk right now too, so like people have to like walk around branches at that corner
Yes.
anyway, so if we can get that corner maybe cleared up also, I mean, that would just help this whole intersection, or this whole block. That's all.
So I got 3 points for you. So on option 2, I will say human nature is they are not going to walk the additional distance. They are going to cut across where that previous crosswalk was and go through the grass, and you'll have a natural path.
Perhaps. The
So,
people, I thought about that too. People that are a little bit more mobility challenged are going to go, to me, are going to go the west route. It's short, it's quick. You get across the road. People are coming down the hill quick. You want to get across the road quick. There's most people that maybe are on bikes, or kids are going to book across as quickly as they can. This is just my thought. I do walk there quite a bit. And actually, I've always thought, why don't we put it this way? Why don't we move it up the street? Because it's a long crosswalk.
And to make it ADA, you're right, it's going to get a real funky with the pavement. We don't want the Duke boys going down the street there, down that hill, yeah. The other thing is crossing to the southeast corner. I think that's a great option, as we do have a number of small businesses there that we want to continue to support, and they literally have no sidewalk in front of their business today.
Right.
So any options there, I definitely am in favor of that. And the other thing, Alderman Wolf brought it up last time we talked about this, make it a 4-way stop. Four-way
Chief has
stop.
mentioned that as well, yes. I've always thought, coming down the hill, I drive this way quite a bit, and I think about the wintertime and what it would.
Put stop signs on hills all the time.
It's one of the steeper
You've
hills.
got crosswalks out with stop signs in the middle of the street
Yeah.
on Wilson, and you come down that hill 25 miles an hour, and you have to stop. If somebody steps out, you have to stop. If you don't know how to stop a car, you shouldn't be driving one. That's the end of that. And again, I'll go back to we can't legislate against stupidity.
I think one of the other things, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think Chief mentioned perhaps reducing the speed limit there as well on that little stretch.
Right, I believe this street is a 30 mile an hour, and most of our other downtown streets, especially between Route 31 as you get closer to the river, Wilson's 25, Houston's 20. A reduction in the speed limit there, more consistent with the other areas, would seem reasonable in this case, especially knowing the volume of pedestrian traffic in that area.
Yep.
Justin?
Could we make that request tonight? Stop sign and speed limit just as one of those like sooner rather than later options?
Sure. Put a stop sign out there with a flashing light on it. We've got those for, new stop sign locations. I think that always helps draw attention to it. And, people just have to be observant.
Hoping they're observing anyway if people are walking through there.
Do you have to make that a
I
motion?
think this is a bad idea, but it could also be a one-way going uphill, right? Two-way, 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 heading north, south, east. If you're heading west, it's one-way uphill. Just a thought. I'll leave it out there. Nobody has to comment, but let it fester a little bit, and then you could have on-street parking. Get some parking there. Well, to get there, you can go up.
It can start at the library parking lot.
Could
People
start.
can
Some of
turn
the
down there, and
businesses
that's
would
the
like
only
that.
way to turn it.
I don't know. You don't have to comment. Could have been a bad idea.
Alice?
Question about Dustin's comment. Were you asking, can we change the speed limit now? Which one were you asking about?
Speed limit and stop sign.
Okay. I would like to do the speed limit for sure, because there's a lot of pedestrians there. The stop sign or light, I'd be interested in exploring that as well. But if I'd like to get that moving, the speed limit at least, do I have to motion this, or how do we get this moving if people are interested in it?
I'd be interested in asking staff to come back with that.
Yeah, I think to be appropriate, because it wasn't put on the agenda to change the speed limit or to add the stop sign, it would be better to put that decision on an agenda and then at the next COW approve that to go to city council.
So can we have that on the agenda
That's correct.
next time?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
To
would
get it
support that.
going, yeah.
Yeah, support that being on a future agenda to change that speed limit.
And the stop signs.
And a stop sign. Abby?
Be allowed to change the speed limit? That's been a very fiery debate in the past.
Well,
street we can.
We can and we are. I mean, it's different on
think-
Wilson and it's different on Houston.
But we've been told, no, we have to study the whole
Until
city.
somebody from IDOT comes in and tells us we can, I say we can.
I thought that
there
was
was a
only,
recent change.
I thought that was only for a citywide.
For a citywide policy change, I thought it was individuals.
Because we have streets that are 20,
We
25
totally
already.
do, and that was one of the arguments for
And that's
doing
still
this.
alive.
I will check with the city attorney, but I think that there was legislation in the last session that changed that rule, or at least clarified that.
Ooh, something to get done before you
I was gonna-
leave.
Yeah, I was going to say for stop signs, generally, we require a warrant analysis to be,
Yeah.
before we start putting stop signs anywhere. We want to do a warrant analysis on that, so,
How long does that take?
good question. That would not be engineering doing it. Actually, Chief, do you want to chime in?
We can usually complete a stop sign study in about a month or so.
Okay.
Where does that land us then with crosswalk markings and curbs in addition?
Well, depending on what we're doing, okay? If we're doing if this is part of our streets program, that actually is starting like next week. We're starting on the 20th. We're starting on the east side. So this work is going to be coming up probably in about a month and a half or 2 months.
We have time to do the engineering on the crosswalks and the ADA and come back with those options, or in that, for this project?
It kind of, okay, so like, if we go back to this option, this is something that we can do fairly easily as part of our streets program.
Doesn't change the
Yes.
sidewalks.
I'm kind of hearing some different thoughts
I know.
on improvements to all corners. And to me, that would be something where we look at this holistically. Engineering wouldn't necessarily be able to do that quickly. So we would probably hire traffic consultants to come out here, survey the whole intersection and look at some options. We can say, this is what we want. We want to have crosswalks on all four legs of the intersection. We'd like to have ADA ramped or a receiving location at the southeast corner by the Warehouse 55. We want to have another crosswalk on the east leg. So we kind of look at it, how do we make this a much better
Traffic
intersection?
calming, and we want it to be a downtown
Yes,
intersection.
I mean, I heard,
Yeah.
I heard Alderperson Lehman suggest, hey, how do we make this more like our downtown? Like when we did Prairie Street, we put brick pavers down. We made it look, this is our downtown area. It makes, you look at it and you go, oh, this is a different location. And it looks nicer and it kind of connects you to the downtown. So that's what I was thinking.
In addition, any work that would be on that corner of BEI, we would need to coordinate with them. Currently, I have been told that there's an agreement with them for the sign that's in the right of way, so we would just need to kind of coordinate that effort. And we are talking with them about some other things in the downtown as well. So I feel like they would hopefully be open to exploring that to see, because, yeah, I was walking it with Tim when we were out there looking at some stuff, and the sidewalk could be almost like a carriage walk along there potentially. But we do know that there are some other things the city has worked on in the past with BEI in that area that are sensitive. So we'd have to address those as well.
I think it benefits their tenants and their property. So to me, they need to be part of that discussion and be on board with it. Okay.
Real quick, so can I clarify? So would everyone be okay then if we left as we are here with the temporary bollards, not adding the curb as it's shown in option one? We leave that for now until we can get a better understanding. We provide a design on the intersection. Is that kind of what we're thinking? Okay.
And I think we would like to, find out maybe at the next cow meeting, where do we really want to go with speed limit and stop signs on there? Because I think we need to make that decision so we can get that moving, if that's what we're going to do. Okay. So, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Carl? Yep.
That's how we do these.
That's when you're having fun.
Arlen Woody, Batavia, Illinois. A number of comments. I guess start with the ego comment. If y'all don't know, I had highway engineers working for me for 20 years. And as I look at this, but also let's back up. I go down that hill from the library twice a week probably. And that longer crosswalk at the bottom, I'm looking for traffic coming up this way, and now I got to be looking for traffic walking out that way. And I will get back to Rule 1 and Rule 3. Rule 1 is pedestrians always have the right of way, and I'd like to make it as safe for them as possible and not confusing for the driver. Rule 3 is engineering is the best solution to all these kind of problems, then education, then enforcement. The stop sign idea anywhere in that intersection doesn't appeal to me at all. The only thing I would change, I like option 2, because as a driver going down that hill, and I'd like to back up, and I said that was really smart, I think, take out a lot of those trees so you have better visibility to the right there. I would go for option 2 because as a driver, the other crosswalk is in an angle. My processing would rather process something at right degree angles and pick up pedestrians going across. My third comment is down the bottom of the hill, and I just saw this like last week. As you get towards the bottom of the hill, of course, you're making a turn, and I saw a number of people crossing in the area of BEI or up higher to get. That's what I would put a new crosswalk north to south right there on First Street. Thank you.
Next thing on our regular agenda is the discussion on City Council IRP Task Force Liaison from the City Council. Alderman Lowen?
I had emailed Alderperson Wolf about this. I don't know if you received any other emails. Okay. I had nominated Dustin. I think Dustin would be a great liaison and representative on our task force. You guys have all been witness to his critical thinking, his knowledge on the matter, and he's very collaborative. So I wanted to nominate him. I spoke with Dustin. He thought about it, and he's okay with it. So I'd like to motion, or if you guys have discussions, right, about this, questions, or anybody else you'd like to nominate. Open to hear that.
Second the nomination for Dustin.
And I thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, and I think it's important too that we have somebody that wants to do this, not somebody that has to do this, but somebody that wants to be there, that wants to listen, that wants to say, okay, these are the 12 things we talked about at that meeting. I need to tell 10 of them to the council. And that's, I think, an important thing. And, from what I've read of stuff he's written and what he's done here, I think that'll be a good person to be that liaison for us.
I would begrudgingly admit I am well suited for the role, given my background. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering and admittedly interest in the topic of power generation, and not just technically, but also from the socioeconomic perspective side of that. I also am the co-chair for the electric utility committee, so it also makes sense there. So I'll have to find that in my schedule, but would I be going to tomorrow's meeting if this is?
We would like that.
That would
Fair.
start off from the beginning.
Very good. So,
Max has
Max?
something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to give a little update on kind of what's transpired since we last talked about things. Tomorrow, we've been working with Prattle on updating a second draft of the preliminary IRP based on a lot of the feedback you had shared and stakeholders had shared. So tomorrow I'll be posting that. We will be digesting part of that for the next IRP task force meeting, so we meet tomorrow, then we'll meet again in 2 weeks. At that meeting in 2 weeks, we'll kind of start digging into the revised IRP. So there's some things in there that you'll see. We tried to add in a little bit more of a menu option that's towards the end in the appendix. So take a look at that. It's a different way of looking at different portfolios. They do address energy policy significantly more through that. And then we've made a really clear note of things that'll be updated for the final IRP. But that's kind of where things are at. So there will be an updated draft coming out tomorrow. We'll be posting that on our website. I'll send it around to you all as well as the task force. So take a look at that. That's what we're going to be working off of going forward with the task force. And we're going to be tomorrow hopefully discussing kind of a work plan of how we want to go about our business. I sent some things around to the task force already, but we'll have obviously extensive discussions on how the group wants to do business. That's kind of an update on where things are at with the IRP. Right now, Brattle is working on the infrastructure study. That's their primary focus. We got them some EV data that'll help them do their analysis. We're going to get them some solar data as well. Kind of from there, they're going to be working in tandem on updating the final IRP as we give feedback to them from the task force and you all, and then also the rate design, and then eventually the cost of service, and everything gets roped back in together and put into nice one big package. So things are going to progress kind of throughout the rest of the year, but if you have any questions or any things you want to know, reach out to Steve, myself, Laura, et cetera, and we'll get you what you need.
And another update is the Environmental Commission. They are listed on the charter to have one representative. They did not have a quorum earlier last week. So we did Max sent out an email to see if they had any input. And I finally got a response after I asked again today. And so they're going to vote on it at their next meeting. But in the meantime, they have 2 potential people that may show up. We do have a representative from BEC that will be in attendance tomorrow.
A motion and a second on Dustin's appointment to the IRP Task Force Liaison. So all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
That'll be 5:30 in the Appleton room.
Okay. Okay. And we will move right on to project status. Laura?
Sure, just a few things. The chimney demolition at 21 to 31 North River Street continues to progress. They've got about 2/3 of the structure down at this point. The Economic Development webpage has been refreshed with a new and business-focused design that's easier to navigate and provides improved access to the resource for businesses, developers, and site selectors. It better reflects the city's commitment to supporting economic growth and creating a welcome environment for investment in our city. We extended offers to 2 candidates for the water and sewer utility operator positions, and both candidates have accepted and are currently just going through background checks. And also conducted interviews for the streets maintenance worker position. While the city came out of the storms, pretty fortunate compared to some other Chicagoland communities. There were still a tremendous amount of call-outs, and there were a lot of hours spent in various acts of cleanup around the city and taking care of some things with our utilities as well. This past Saturday was a really nice celebration, the ribbon cutting for the Peace Bridge pedestrian ramp. That was hosted jointly by the city and the Park District, but the Park District really did the heavy lifting on the event, and they made it really, really nice. And immediately thereafter, they also had a ribbon cutting for the renaming of the plaza just to the south of this building. It used to be called the real creative name of South Plaza, and it will now be known as Peace Plaza. And so there are several amenities that they've got the Peace River with the painted rocks, and then the Batavia Rotary Club donated a peace pole, which has a message about peace in 8 different languages on it. And then also our lead service line replacement is shifting to North Washington Avenue this week. And so we sent out a message to the community to be aware that it's going to be a little bit difficult traveling through that area. They may want to take alternative routes. And that's all that I have, unless anybody has any questions for me. Okay.
Okay, any other business, Kevin?
Yeah, I know that we are about 6 months out, I believe, from hiring or beginning to look for, I guess that's my question, a new fire chief here. I think we're coming up to mandatory retirement on that. I would be interested in getting an update on that. I know that as I'm learning more, hiring firefighters takes a lot longer than just like a cashier or something. So I would definitely love an update here soon, just kind of on where we're at, what that search is going to look like, and how we'll be moving forward, since that's such a big part of our community.
Initially, we intend to post it internally and interview internal candidates for the position. And if we aren't able to find an appropriate candidate through that process, then to look for external candidates.
Okay, and you can provide us with kind of the intended timelines coming up for all that, and kind of just what the criteria are and things of that sort. I'm just interested in that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Jim?
Yeah, just a quick question. As I've been doing this job long enough to realize that movements tend to kind of go around the governing bodies. The Kane County Board, they just suspended GLP-1 coverage for their employees as a cost savings measure for their health insurance. I don't agree with that. But the question is, how does that, I think that'll be a topic that'll make the rounds shortly. What's our position on that? Do we cover that?
Wendy has some good news to share on that. We're taking care of our employees.
Absolutely. So GLP-1s have been covered from the get-go, and then we've been reviewing the cost of that. As you know, it can be very costly from a claims experience. Effective July 1st, we switched over to an RX Save card for all of our GLP users for weight loss. If you're using GLP for diabetes or anything like that, it still is going to continue to be covered through our Express Scripts, which is our prescription coverage. But anything for weight loss switched over to an RX Saver, which then is the employee still has coverage, but they're having it directly, they purchase it directly from the manufacturer. So it saves not only the employees some money, it also saves us as the claims. It cuts our cost nearly in half in regards to the GLP costs. So we're still continuing to cover it, but it's just a little bit different process for those employees that use that.
Okay. If no other business, we have an executive session for real estate.
Yes.
Motion to go into executive session.
I'll move.
Second. Motion by Malay, second by Lancy. All those